To become an immortal sooner, I started cultivating in my mother's womb. Moreover, my mom is a female emperor. She is the only woman in the past centuries to prove the Tao and achieve the heavenly emperor fruit. Inside a heavenly emperor's belly, there isn't the expected amniotic fluid. Instead, it is a realm of primal chaos. Every day my mom uses great magical power to cleanse my marrow and forge my bones. The origin power from a heavenly emperor constantly nourishes my physical body and soul at all times. This makes me look forward to the moment of my birth immensely. Calculating the time, there are probably about 5 months left. Just as I was planning to lie flat, the self-discipline system found me. As the host is an emperor's son, you must have peerless cultivation and be different from ordinary people. Please start cultivating immediately. After the task is completed, you will be rewarded with the supreme bone and the heaven-devouring demonic art. Hearing this, I suddenly realized a very serious problem. Since my consciousness awakened until now, I have never been in contact with cultivation. Even though my mom is a heavenly emperor-level powerhouse, and my dad and other relatives around her are equally not weak, none of these people have ever discussed cultivation in front of me. Even if they did discuss it, with my current level, I wouldn't understand it at all anyway. Moreover, I am still in the womb, so there is no way for me to ask my mom and dad to teach me. The only thing that can allow me to cultivate is by utilizing mom's origin baptism. After the heavenly emperor's origin power enters my body, it always follows a special trajectory to comb through me. In the past, I just lay flat and let mom control all of this. Thinking carefully, those trajectories are extremely profound. They might just be the circulation route of some cultivation technique. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but get excited. During the next baptism, wouldn't it work if I try to mobilize my power to follow along? Anyway, the system didn't say what level I need to cultivate to. I have to sleep 20 hours a day. Not to mention, I am still an unborn half-finished product. Not long after, I fell into a deep sleep. This is a place called the Profound Frost Grotto Heaven. It forms a world of its own here, independent from the Great Thousand World. Although the buildings inside look ordinary, in reality every brick and tile is forged from top-tier natural treasures. The ubiquitous flowers and grass are also rare top-grade spiritual herbs. If these things were placed in the outside world, they would be enough to trigger a storm of blood and gore. This is exactly the residence of the current world's #1 powerhouse, the Frost Heavenly Emperor. The heavily pregnant woman walked into the courtyard with her belly protruding, and the man next to her was her Tao companion Jiang Wushu. This person has the strength of a holy ancestor, and is also a top-tier powerhouse in this world. However, right now he is transformed into a simp, massaging the Empress's legs and shoulders. Looking at his technique, it could be described as extremely skillful. The sound of their conversation woke me up. Feeling refreshed, I stretched lazily with satisfaction. Just as I made a move, I heard Mom's exclamation, "Ah, this little guy is acting up again." The next moment came Dad's fierce voice. "You brat, daring to act up in my wife's belly. Once you come out, believe it or not, I'll spank your butt into 108 pieces." However, as soon as his voice fell, he was kicked flying by Mom. "You surnamed Jiang. If you dare to lay a single finger on my son, I'll send you to the demonic abyss and suppress you for 10,000 years. Hearing the commotion, I almost laughed out loud in the womb. It seems my status is already above Dad's before I'm even born. Mom's deep love, I can feel it even through the womb. Shortly after, Dad flew back again. "Shuanger, you can't forget your husband just because you have a son. This brat isn't even born yet, and you are already so protective. I am his biological father after all. Besides, aren't I just feeling sorry for you?" Hearing this resentful tone, Su Qingshuang burst out laughing. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Dad, you are just a coward. To be honest, I really want to interview my dad Jiang Wushu. How does he, at the holy ancestor realm, manage to have a heavenly emperor-level wife who can press him down and beat him at any time? And how does he face an unborn son, whose status has already surpassed his?" Just as I was thinking, Mom spoke. "Wushu, help me prepare some precious medicine. I'm going to start baptizing the little guy's body later." Hearing this, Dad felt a bit distressed. "It's really hard on you. If it weren't for this brat's ordinary physique, you wouldn't have to use your origin power every day to baptize him. No matter how ordinary he is our son. Even if he can only be immortal forever, I will protect him for a lifetime." Mom's tone was full of determination. looking at his wife's firm eyes. Jiang Wushu's gaze also became sharp. Rest assured. No one in this world dares to bully our son. After Jiang Wushu finished speaking, he turned and left. And I, who had heard everything, felt somewhat emotional. Although my physique has been continuously transforming recently, in the eyes of mom and dad it still seems ordinary. But it doesn't matter now that I have a system. In the future great wilderness world's 3,000 Dao domains, there will definitely be a place for me. Not long after Jiang Wushu prepared everything properly, and Su Qingshuang returned to the room, and began to meditate and regulate her breath. Inside her body, the majestic heaven and earth origin power surged endlessly. After her careful mobilization and transformation, these powers became gentle, slowly flowing into my body, following a profound and mysterious route, continuously washing my physical body and soul. And I, who had been waiting for this moment, also began to try to mobilize this power. However, I clearly overestimated myself. As a dignified heavenly emperor, how could her power be shaken by the current me? But all this was expected. I didn't get discouraged, and tried again to mobilize my own power. Although I have never mastered cultivation methods, nor do I understand the application of power. Fortunately, mom's long-term baptisms have made my divine sense very powerful. Therefore, after spending a long time, I finally gathered a trace of power. Just like countless newcomers who have just stepped onto the path of cultivation, I carefully controlled this trace of power, trying hard to follow behind mom's origin, following the exact same trajectory, moving rapidly within my body. This process was not easy for me either. Mom's power was too vigorous and terrifying. That trace of spiritual energy I gathered, whenever it got a little too close, it would be annihilated into nothingness. Helplessly, I had to gather my power over and over again. Fortunately, after a lot of tossing about, I finally memorized the circulation route of mom's power. It continued like this for fully 2 hours. As the baptism ended, and the powerful origin power retreated, it was time to complete the task. I gathered a trace of power in my body again, and according to the memorized route, started controlling this trace of power to roam within my body. As long as I complete one perfect cycle, the task should be completed. Towards this I couldn't help but hold immense expectations. And at this time in the outside world, mom opened her eyes, with a trace of exhaustion deep in her eyes. Everyone's cultivation talent is innate. Innate nurturing is bound to be superior to postnatal transformation. Therefore, every time she baptized her son, she went all out, even not hesitating to use her heavenly emperor's origin power. The purpose was so that before I am born, my physique could become as strong as possible. Even for a heavenly emperor, using origin power for a long time will make her feel slightly tired. She needed to meditate slightly to recover. However, the effect of doing this was indeed very obvious. Over the past few months, the talent of the fetus in her belly had completed round after round of transformation. But Su Qingshuang was still not satisfied enough. At the very least, he needed the aptitude to become a saint, so he could live freely in this world where the strong are revered. After pondering for a moment, mom stopped thinking too much, and just as she was preparing to begin meditating to recover, her expression suddenly changed. The next moment, that peerless face that wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed before her, revealed an extremely exaggerated expression of shock. The fetus in her belly made some movements that stunned her. My heavens! How is this possible? Wushu, come here quickly. Following her call, the space inside the room fluctuated. Immediately after Jiang Wushu's figure materialized. What's wrong, Shuanger? Jiang Wushu was greatly shocked in his heart. How many years had it been since he last saw this kind of expression on his wife's face? Could it be that something major had happened? He subconsciously looked at Su Qingshuang's lower abdomen. Could it be that something is wrong with the child? Thinking of this, Jiang Wushu's heart filled with panic. Su Qingshuang's face was still full of horror at this moment. Wushu, let me ask you. If I said, our son, he is cultivating in my belly, would you dare to believe it? If he didn't know his wife was a heavenly emperor, Jiang Wushu would have suspected she had prenatal depression. After his shock, Dad smiled and said, Shuanger, you're teasing me again. But when he placed his hand on Su Qingshuang's belly, and carefully sensed it, his body shivered. His eyes widened with an expression like he had seen a ghost. It took a long time before he was heard giving a bitter laugh. It seems our son is an evildoer. A holy ancestor and a heavenly emperor couldn't explain this phenomenon. Except for the word evildoer. There was truly no way to express the shock in their hearts. The route this kid is cultivating with is following the method I used to cleanse his bones and cut his marrow. It wasn't a waste for me to baptize him every day. Su Qingshuang's slender fingers stroked her lower abdomen, her eyes full of tenderness. If he can cultivate in the womb for half a year, the innate power generated upon birth would directly exceed that of ordinary people by thousands or tens of thousands of times. Haha, as expected of my Jiang Wushu's son. Truly extraordinary. After Dad accepted this fact, he couldn't help but get smug. Su Qingshuang sat on the couch and couldn't help rolling her eyes. Seeing this, Jiang Wushu coughed dryly twice and said seriously, "Shuanger, I think our son might just have hit upon this by accident this time. Perhaps he'll only cultivate this once, and tomorrow he'll cease all activity." Hearing this, Su Qingshuang nodded. This little guy is stumbling along while cultivating. I'd better guide him a bit. Shuanger, then you'll have to work hard again. After Jiang Wushu finished speaking, his figure gradually faded out of the room and disappeared. This time she separated a very small portion of spiritual energy to guide that wisp of aura inside the fetus's body, advancing rapidly through the limbs and bones. I distinctly felt that my own power was running more and more smoothly. Not only that, more spiritual energy gathered in my body, growing stronger and stronger. At this time I still didn't know it was Mom helping me. With continuous cultivation, an inexplicable aura was born in my body, making me feel refreshed and my whole being extremely spirited. Even when one cycle of cultivation ended, there was still no intention of stopping. I slowly entered a state of selflessness. Unknowingly a day had passed. When I detached from that miraculous state, earth-shattering changes had already occurred in my body. A thin streak of purple aura quickly traversed through my meridians. This was innate purple chi containing infinite profound mysteries, which could only be born inside the womb. Now my task should be considered complete, right? I was just preparing to ask the system, but suddenly a wave of exhaustion hit me. After all, I am still just a fetus. In an instant I fell asleep. Not long after I fell asleep, the system prompt sounded again. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Rewards have been issued. Please check them yourself. But deep in sleep I couldn't hear it at all. At this moment Su Qingshuang had also finished meditating. To a heavenly emperor, this one day of guidance was nothing at all. This little thing actually produced so much innate purple chi in just one cultivation session. The corners of Su Qingshuang's mouth curled up. Her son was indeed extraordinary. Even in those ancient inheritances, one couldn't find many people possessing this much innate purple chi. In the blink of an eye, another day passed. I felt like I slept for a long time. I gave a long big stretch. I had never experienced such comfort. Today Mom had already baptized me. But I didn't notice it at all. The task should be completed too, right? Thinking this, I summoned the system. Host rewards have been issued. Do you want to fuse the Supreme Bone? Do you want to fuse the heaven-devouring demonic art? In this world, cultivators have a total of 13 major realms. Quenching Bone, Clearing Meridians, Heavenly Dipper, Divine Wheel, Nurturing Spirit, Fusing Soul, Dharma Idol, Divine Treasury, Heavenly Evolution, Controlling the Void, Profound Insight, Holy Ancestor, Heavenly Emperor. A Heavenly Emperor is hard to produce even in millions of years. Holy Ancestor powerhouses are the most peak existences. I am very clear on what exactly the Supreme Bone and Heaven-Devouring Demonic Art mean. Let's fuse the Heaven-Devouring Demonic Art first. As my voice fell, an incomparably complex flood of information rushed into my brain. Soon all the information was completely instilled. I couldn't wait anymore. Following the method recorded in the soul imprint, I started trying to cultivate. And right at this time, in the courtyard, Jiang Wushu and Su Qingshuang were sitting in front of a stone table. Besides them, there were also a young man and woman. They looked to be only in their 20s. They were Su Qingshuang's younger brother Su Qingtian and younger sister Su Qingyu. The cultivation levels of this sibling pair weren't much weaker than Jiang Wushu's. The few of them were discussing the unborn me. Su Qingshuang told them about the little guy cultivating in the womb. The expressions on Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu's faces were extremely exaggerated. Their emotional shock couldn't calm down for a long time. This nephew of mine, could he be the reincarnation of some great almighty figure? Su Qingtian muttered blankly. Su Qingyu was also somewhat hesitant and unsure. Jiang Wushu was chuckling on the side, looking as proud as could be. I think this matter was caused by a lucky coincidence. I reckon it will only happen this once. After doing that, he turned his head to look at Su Qingshuang beside him. Shuanger. When you baptized the brat today, he didn't make any movements, did he? Su Qingxuang shook her head. Indeed. She had just finished the baptism. And the little guy was sleeping very soundly in the womb. She originally thought that before the little thing was born, he could temper out more innate purple qi. It was just that when Jiang Wushu saw her nod, he got a bit fired up. If he could cultivate every day, after he is born, wouldn't I have to worship him like an ancestor? They only heard him say this pledging in all seriousness. But in the very next moment Su Qingxuang suddenly let out a surprised gasp. What? Does what you just said really count? Su Qingxuang stared straight at him, revealing a mysterious smile. What did I say? Jiang Wushu was a bit stunned, not understanding why. If I said that the little guy is cultivating again, what would you think? And these words caused Jiang Wushu's body to suddenly freeze in place. Jiang Wushu still didn't believe it, and reached out to touch Su Qingxuang's lower abdomen. Sure enough, there was spiritual energy circulating within the fetus's body again. In an instant Jiang Wushu felt that his whole being was not well. He couldn't speak for a long time. This brat couldn't possibly be eavesdropping on our conversation, right? Jiang Wushu suddenly widened his eyes and squeezed out this sentence. But Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu on the side were endlessly shocked. They also leaned in to sense it a bit. Good heavens! He really is cultivating. The two stared at each other wide-eyed. Their eyes filled with horror deep down. Wait, that's not right. Suddenly Su Qingyu spoke in a startled manner. The technique the little guy is cultivating seems to be an unfamiliar one. As soon as Su Qingyu's voice fell, the pupils of the few people all suddenly shrank. Su Qingxuang had only sensed it roughly just now, and hadn't looked carefully. But now, hearing her sister's words, she sank a wisp of her mind into the fetus's body. The spiritual energy inside the fetus was following an inexplicably bizarre trajectory. It wasn't any kind of technique she had ever encountered. Did the little guy invent his own technique? The four of them looked at each other in blank dismay. This simply overturned their cognition. He wouldn't really be the reincarnation of a great almighty figure, right? Su Qingtian said again. For a time all four fell into deep thought. After a long while Su Qingxuang shook her head. Any reincarnation of a great almighty figure would plant contingency plans in advance. It's impossible to restart a lifetime with an ordinary physique. But the little guy's physique was very ordinary in the beginning. Hearing her words, the three also felt it made sense. I'm guessing there must be a companion divine object inside this little guy's body. Su Qingxuang voiced her thoughts. Companion divine objects are extremely rare. For example, someone once born, holding a primordial sword diagram in their hand, and using it to cultivate, eventually became a supreme sword Dao entity. There are also those born with terrifying innate killing arrays carved into their bodies, whose might was peerless, flattening everything. Wait until the little guy stops cultivating, and I will carefully probe to see, Su Qingxuang said. Thinking of this, the four of them couldn't help but feel somewhat expectant. Just when the four were discussing eagerly, I inside the womb suddenly erupted with a powerful burst of aura all over my body. Success! The heaven-devouring demonic art was actually successfully cultivated by me this easily. And with the rapid circulation of the technique, an invisible black hole appeared at my dantian, frantically devouring spiritual energy. At the same time, huge roaring sounds erupted within my body. In the very first moment Mom knew about this situation, the little thing actually succeeded in cultivating it so fast. Su Qingxuang said in a daze. The three people nearby also quickly sensed the commotion. This is no longer a monster. Could he be a freak? Su Qingyu widened her bright eyes and said blankly. The shock she received today was truly too huge. But at this moment Su Qingxuang had no time to be further shocked. She separated a bit of her mind, and began operating her own technique. The little guy is not yet born. He cannot directly absorb spiritual qi from heaven and earth. All the spiritual energy he needs for cultivation must be extracted from the mother's womb. Since he wants to cultivate properly before birth, Su Qingxuang naturally couldn't sit by and do nothing. At this time I was still immersed in the cultivation state. Once the heaven-devouring demonic art circulated, it began a frantic plunder. Endless energy was refined, and it wasn't long before the surrounding energy became thin. But soon even more energy surged forth. It must be Mom knowing I'm cultivating, and specially coming to help me. Having a heavenly emperor mom is just great. With my current level, the power I absorb is insignificant to Mom. As time passed, the vigorous spiritual energy within my meridians surged turbulently rapidly gathering in my dantian. In the outside world, Su Qingshuang split her attention to help the little guy refine spiritual energy, while the other three also continued to pay attention to my condition. Not long after, Su Qingtian couldn't help but exclaim. He broke through. This kid broke through. He sensed that. I inside the womb crossed into the bone-quenching realm in one fell swoop. Jiang Wushu no longer knew what to say. The three of them felt extremely shocked in their hearts. However, the changes in my body had only just begun. The spiritual energy was still skyrocketing crazily. Bone-quenching level 2. Climbing all the way to bone-quenching level 9. Under the perception of Jiang Wushu and the other two, the changes in my body still hadn't stopped. Shuang'er quickly stopped the brat. You can't let him step into the meridian-clearing realm just like this. Jiang Wushu suddenly remembered something, and hastily said to Su Qingshuang. Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu also nodded incessantly upon hearing this. Beside the stone table, Su Qingshuang didn't hesitate to activate her spiritual energy, cutting off all my sources of power. Finally the little guy quieted down. Today they truly had their eyes opened. The few of them continued discussing, and every word revolved around the unborn me. Actually, I was listening to all the words they were saying. The bone-quenching extreme realm? Only then did I know that the bone-quenching realm actually had an extreme realm. It seems I can't just focus on breaking through. I must also carefully polish my cultivation. Mom is a heavenly emperor. How can I drop the ball? Just as I was thinking, the system sound came. New task issued. Break the bone-quenching extreme realm within half a month. Task reward. Immaculate Sword Heart. I was suddenly stunned for a moment. There's a new task so quickly? I briefly looked at the reward. Possessing the Immaculate Sword Heart, one can have the purest perception and comprehension of the Sword Tao, and thereby manifest intent into a sword able to slash all things formlessly. Especially when facing a sword cultivator. One can even directly control the opponent's sword intent to turn against them and strike back. The things given by the system are indeed never simple. I'm not in a hurry for now. Let's finish claiming the previous reward first. There's still a supreme bone left unclaimed. System, fuse the supreme bone. As my command was issued, suddenly a burning aura at my chest surged madly. This power surged towards every part of my entire body. A bone at my chest area emitted light, and the bright red blood within my body carried traces of purple-gold brilliance. However, such a commotion once again startled the few people outside into shivering. The four of them all clearly sensed that a miraculous power suddenly awakened inside the fetus's body. And under this power, that tiny body was undergoing terrifyingly peerless changes. Let me see, Jiang Wushu said after being stunned for a long time, only then remembering to investigate. But as his palm pressed onto Su Qingshuang's lower abdomen, his whole person was like being struck by lightning. Divine bone. It's a companion divine bone. Jiang Wushu shouted in shock, his eyes bulging like brass bells. For a time the four present were all endlessly shocked. This little guy sure gave his aunt a good scare today. Now I understand why this brat can cultivate in the womb. Su Qingyu chuckled lightly. This little thing seems to be stirring up trouble again. Suddenly Su Qingshuang let out a light gasp. In the next instant, they saw thunder rumbling above the heavens. Infinite power was generated out of thin air, and a terrifying coercion swept in all directions. It's the anomaly brought by the companion divine bone. Jiang Wushu understood at once. For a time all four in the courtyard felt their hearts shaken. This was a massive anomaly. Not only this space of the profound frost grotto heaven, even the outside world began to tremble. That coercion encompassed an area millions of miles wide. In an instant the powerhouses of large and small sects nearby were all alarmed. At the same time, who knows how many incomparably powerful divine senses all spread out through the void. They intended to spy on the specific source. However, the moment these divine senses fell into the profound frost grotto heaven, they were directly crushed by a ferocious force. It was exactly Mom's heavenly emperor might. I'll spare you all this time. If you dare to offend again, this emperor will absolutely not show mercy. Su Qingshuang's voice echoed in the void, heard by countless people. This was a warning from the frost heavenly emperor. At the same time, the anomaly in the firmament was also concealed by Mom, using a divine ability. Seeing this situation, those old monsters also retreated one by one. Only everything that happened today was rapidly spreading out. After a long time, I also completed the fusion of the supreme bone. For the next few days I also cultivated steadily. striving to break through to the bone-quenching extreme realm sooner. Unknowingly 5 days passed. The innate purple chi inside my body had also reached an extremely abundant level. But I still hadn't touched the surface of the extreme realm. It seems I must rely on Mom's heavenly emperor origin power to cultivate. But because it caused too much commotion a few days ago, Mom has been managing me very strictly lately, and absolutely wouldn't mobilize the heavenly emperor origin for me to cultivate. No way. Wait until Mom baptizes me today. Even if I have to snatch it. I have to snatch a bit of heavenly emperor origin over to try cultivating. Several hours later. Finally a surge of powerful force arrived turbulently. This was exactly Mom's heavenly emperor origin power. At this moment I waited in full readiness, waiting for that majestic power to enter my body. I then quickly mobilized my own power, wanting to snatch some. However, my power hadn't even touched it before it was shredded into nothingness by the heavenly emperor origin. Mom's strength was too powerful. I widened my eyes, feeling helpless. Mom, lend me your power to use, I shouted in my heart. At the same time I stretched out my two short little arms, continuously waving them in the void, wanting to get Mom's attention. What's wrong with this little thing today? Sure enough, Su Qingshuang quickly noticed that the little guy was vigorously punching her belly. She calmed her mind and carefully watched the little guy's every move. A moment later Su Qingshuang was surprised to find a wave of devouring power surged up in my body, wanting to sweep away her heavenly emperor origin power. She simply stopped the baptism to observe what exactly the little guy wanted to do. You brat, you actually want to use my origin power to cultivate? Su Qingshuang widened her eyes and couldn't help but say angrily. He just wanted to refine her heavenly emperor origin. Moreover, this power, let alone refining it, even if it entered my body without guidance, it could shred me to death. Mom would definitely not allow it. For a time, she didn't even have the mind to baptize me anymore. I didn't stop the movements of my hands though, and continued to punch Mom's belly. Su Qingshuang was truly helpless, going along with the little guy. She was afraid he'd cause some problem, not going along with him. This little thing kept fussing non-stop. Whatever. Who told you to be my son? After a long while, she was seen rubbing her forehead and saying she made up her mind to only use a tiny thread of origin power. If there was any abnormality, she would stop it immediately. Very soon, that incomparably fierce devouring power in my body surged forth again, directly swallowing that thread of heavenly emperor origin in the blink of an eye. Su Qingshuang controlled her mind to follow closely behind, but clearly her worry was a bit superfluous. When that power entered my dantian, it was transformed into the purest energy by the devouring power in an instant. Then I absorbed this energy. This spiritual energy was even more effective than directly using the origin for baptism. In the room, Mom was shocked, speechless. She didn't expect that her origin power was truly refined by the little guy, and there wasn't a single trace left behind. The only explanation was that the little guy's technique was too overpowered. It seems I still underestimated your technique. Su Qingshuang suddenly beamed into a smile. Since there was no danger, Mom no longer restricted it, and continuously infused her origin power. Over the next few days my cultivation could be said to have grown crazily and wildly. But Mom couldn't handle having too much origin refined away either. The heaven-devouring demonic art was too tyrannical. I hesitated whether to give up this task, because the damage to Mom, unlike a baptism, couldn't be recovered very quickly. Mom seemed to know what I was thinking. Little thing. Just cultivate at ease and don't worry about me. This little bit of origin power consumption to your mother can be recovered by spending a few days cultivating. Just let go and cultivate properly. Mom's gentle voice sounded by my ear. I clenched my small fists, and no longer having too many worries, I threw myself wholeheartedly into cultivation. Days passed one by one. There were 3 days left before the half-month task deadline. I was assaulting the final barrier of the extreme realm. However, late at night on this very day, a sudden accident almost interrupted my cultivation. This night, in the heaven brilliance domain, which was separated from the immortal domain by 3 major domains, a sword beam stretching from heaven to earth suddenly shot up into the sky. Immediately after, the void trembled, and a monstrous sword intent burst forth like a mountain flood, suddenly sweeping in all directions. Over a dozen major domains were encompassed by this sword intent. On this night, all cultivators in over a dozen major domains were alarmed. Compared to the anomaly brought by my physique change, this sword intent riot was even more shocking. The range it covered was several times larger. The terrifying sword chi shredded everything. Wherever it passed, all things and matters were slashed into nothingness. A moment later, a chilling female voice was heard spreading out from the immortal domain. Is the longevity Mu family completely devoid of people? Do you need this emperor to take action and help you cover up the anomaly? This sentence was heard by everyone, shocking them. The only person in the current world who dared to call herself this emperor was the Frost Heavenly Emperor. And her words instantly revealed the origin of that supreme sword body. The longevity Mu family. One of the most absolute pinnacle factions in the Heaven Brilliance domain. Inherited for tens of millions of years. With profound heritage. And producing powerhouses in generations. Furthermore, today a supreme sword body was born. Even if they are strong, they aren't as strong as Mom. An anomaly could not terminate her process of baptizing the Emperor's son. The Mu family had no intention to disturb. Please forgive us, Frost Heavenly Emperor. In a few days, this old man will personally visit to apologize. Not long after, a grand voice rang out from the Heaven Brilliance domain. Then finally a torrential wave of spiritual energy was seen surging up to the 9 heavens, suppressing the huge sword body anomaly. At this time in the room in the profound Frost Grotto Heaven, Jiang Wuxiu was saying something to Su Qingshuang. And then he left again. And I also heard their conversation. A sword Dao genius was born. And even caused a bigger commotion than I did. What's going on here? This is trying to go against me, huh? Wait until this emperor's son is born, I must see what kind of trash you are. A moment later, I threw myself back into cultivation. After cultivating for another 2 days. There was less than a day left. Breaking the bone-quenching extreme realm by this time tomorrow will absolutely be no problem. This divine speed left Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wuxiu incomparably shocked too. Especially Jiang Wuxiu, his heart was full of mixed feelings. This brat is going to break the bone-quenching extreme realm in half a month. Back in the day he spent nearly half a year to break the bone-quenching extreme realm. In the blink of an eye it was the second day. Outside the profound Frost Grotto Heaven, a majestic boundless spiritual chi vortex covered the entire firmament and rotated increasingly faster. In the courtyard, Jiang Wuxiu, Su Qingtian and Su Qingyu were quietly waiting for me to successfully accomplish it. But right at this moment, the void suddenly fluctuated. A group of several figures stepped out from the void. The Heaven Brilliance Domain's Mu family, Mu Nantian, has come to apologize to the Frost Heavenly Emperor. These few people appeared outside the Grotto Heaven, standing high up in the sky and bowing in salute. Those who come are guests. Please come in. Jiang Wuxiu spoke out. He lightly waved his hand, and the formation outside the Grotto Heaven opened. Immediately after, the several people from the Mu family flew right in, and landed outside the courtyard. Then walked in on foot. Leading them was an old man who looked to be nearly 60 years old. With broad eyebrows and a large forehead. Dressed in luxurious brocade clothing. His whole person exuded an incomparably majestic, imposing aura. This person was exactly the current family head of the Mu family, Mu Nantian. He was also a holy ancestor-level powerhouse. And it was such a powerhouse, who upon walking into the courtyard, suddenly retracted his whole imposing aura. Facing a young holy ancestor like Jiang Wuxiu, he directly performed a grand salute. Mu Nantian is here today to apologize to the Frost Heavenly Emperor and Wuxiu Holy Ancestor. To this Jiang Wuxiu smiled and lightly raised his hand. Family head Mu doesn't need to be so polite. A trivial matter is nothing to worry about. Jiang Wuxiu said with a smile. Jiang Wuxiu waved his hand, then signaled Mu Nantian to take a seat, and poured him a cup of tea. The Frost Heavenly Emperor is magnanimous. So this Mu can put his heart at ease. Wuxiu Holy Ancestor even disregards past grievances and bestows tea. It truly makes this old man ashamed. Mu Nantian said, laughing heartily. Jiang Wuxiu chatted with him casually for a while. And soon the topic unconsciously shifted to the yet unborn Emperor's son. And the absolute spirit sword body, just born in his Mu family. Verbally saying he was inferior to the Emperor's son. But the meaning between the lines was that his grandson's sword body anomaly was too majestic. And was who knows how many times more awesome than your son's anomaly. This old geezer. He's not here to apologize. But made a special trip to my home to show off, right? In an instant, a lump of nameless anger surged in Jiang Wuxiu's heart. Who was he, Jiang Wuxiu? His wife is ranked as a current heavenly emperor. His son brought a companion divine bone and heaven and earth anomalies before even being born. Seeing his face pull long about to flare up. Right at this moment, A huge roaring sound suddenly emitted from the room behind him. Immediately after, a heart-palpitating force fiercely burst open. A cluster of dazzling light and shadows appeared in the room, and streams of invisible heaven and earth rules abruptly snapped. Bone-quenching extreme realm. Mu Nantian said, astounded. But how could there be in the Frost Heavenly Emperor's room someone who just broke through the bone-quenching extreme realm? Mu Nantian was puzzled after 100 thoughts. But in a certain instant he suddenly thought of something, and his whole person stood frozen on the spot. Jiang Wushu immediately restrained his mind and put on an indifferent smile. Family head Mu doesn't need to be surprised. It's just a little commotion caused by my young son. Drink tea. Mu Nantian was completely dumbfounded. Okay? Isn't the emperor's son not even born yet? For a time Mu Nanshan's thoughts spun 100 times. Compared to the emperor's son, his own grandson's absolute spirit sword body was just SOSO. But a Mu family member on the side sent a voice transmission to the family head telling him, the emperor's son has a powerful bloodline. To be able to cultivate in the womb, the heavenly emperor definitely used some methods. Moreover, his heaven and earth anomaly wasn't even a tenth of the divine son's. So he might not necessarily be stronger than the divine son. Hearing this, Mu Nantian looked at Jiang Wushu and fiercely praised him again. Jiang Wushu smiled and didn't reply. And at this time the room door was pushed open, and a beautiful otherworldly figure stepped out. It was exactly Su Qingshuang. Jiang Wushu hurriedly got up and went to support her. Mu Nantian also stood up and bowed simultaneously with the two behind him, calling out respectfully, Frost Heavenly Emperor. Su Qingshuang med in response, signaling him to sit down. Mu Nantian spoke as he flipped his hand to take out a gold-stamped invitation card. Placing it on the table in front of Su Qingshuang with both hands, he immediately stated his purpose. Not only was he here to apologize, but also because his grandson Mu Qingchen had manifested the absolute spirit sword body, and he wanted to invite the Heavenly Emperor to attend a banquet. But Su Qingshuang completely didn't care. At this moment, I inside the womb was pondering. The sword Dao genius born previously. His physique is the absolute spirit sword body. I don't know how it compares to my current reward, the immaculate sword heart. In terms of who is more awesome. I looked at the system. The reward had already been issued. System fuse the immaculate sword heart. As soon as my voice fell, my heart suddenly gave a strong, powerful beat. This is. The hearts of the few people in the courtyard skipped a beat simultaneously. All eyes involuntarily looked towards Su Qingshuang's belly. What's going on this time? But before they could think too much, the next moment an inexplicable force grew madly. A crack was heard from the teacup in Mu Nanshan's hand, and densely packed cracks appeared on it. Subsequently another heartbeat fell, and streams of sharp whistling sword cries were generated out of thin air in the void. The stone table in front of them and the stone stools beneath them cracked simultaneously. The flowers and grass in the courtyard and the surrounding buildings all developed cracks. All the fissures were smooth and flat as if cut by a sharp sword. The crowd in the courtyard watched this scene in horror. At the same time they were pondering. My heart was still continuing to emit powerful beats. With every heartbeat, an invisible force rippled through the void, and terrifying fissures spread along the ground to the surroundings. Not only that, a monstrous sword intent suddenly surged in the hearts of the 8 powerhouses in the courtyard. Not only was this sword intent uncontrolled by them, it rampaged wildly, intending to break through their mental defenses. This is sword intent. Mu Nantian spoke out, wanting to say something. However, before he finished speaking he heard a huge rumbling boom. In an instant smoke and dust rose in all directions, drowning out their figures. The next moment they manifested in midair not far away. But how could there still be the previous courtyard in front of them? Even that mountain peak had turned into dust. This brat demolished my house. After a long time Jiang Wushu suddenly shouted angrily. He stared fiercely at Su Qingshuang's lower abdomen. And at this time that burst of sword intent had already disappeared from heaven and earth. A light shield was seen appearing outside Su Qingshuang's body, and vigorous peerless sword light crashed crisscrossing within it. Mu Nantian watched this scene. He knew it was the Frost Heavenly Emperor making a move to instantly conceal the anomaly. That sword intent just now is the immaculate sword heart. It's absolutely the immaculate sword heart. They heard Mu Nantian say in a deep voice. That sword intent was too terrifying even a holy ancestor powerhouse like him. Had the depths of his heart invaded by the sword intent. Su Qingtian, Su Qingyu, and the other two from the Mu family were puzzled. They didn't understand this very well. But Su Qingshuang on the side slowly spoke. Correct. It is exactly the immaculate sword heart. A sword Dao physique that went extinct in ancient times. Its strongest aspect is being able to manifest intent into a sword, slashing all things formlessly. For sword cultivators with a not too large difference in cultivation, in front of the immaculate sword heart, I'm afraid they can't even exert half their strength. If it is said that cultivating the absolute spirit sword body to its peak makes it the strongest tangible sword in the world, then the immaculate sword heart ultimately becomes the most terrifying intangible sword. Hearing these words, the few people were horrified beyond measure. Doesn't this mean he has a cheat code? And right at this moment, that person from the Mu family who had never spoken suddenly popped a question. Family head. How does this immaculate sword heart compare to the Divine Son's absolute spirit sword body? As soon as these words came out, Mu Nanshan's old face immediately turned black, pulling as long as a donkey's face. But Jiang Wushu seemed unable to see Mu Nanshan's displeased expression, and enthusiastically answered for him. The absolute spirit sword body is also a sword cultivator. What do you think? That person from the Mu family who asked the question paused for a moment, and also understood. Mu Nantian stared at him with a fierce gaze, cracking his knuckles with popping sounds. At this moment he wished he could slap this idiot in front of him, and shatter his skull to pieces with one palm. Looking at Mu Nanshan's expression, Jiang Wushu felt an unspeakable pleasure deep in his heart. After quite a while, Mu Nantian finally adjusted his mood, and squeezed out a stiff smile. The Emperor's son indeed has peerless cultivation. This Mu only has admiration in my heart. Jiang Wushu then deeply smiled and complimented the absolute spirit sword body, a few sentences. But that expression looked as fake as it could possibly be. Okay? Mu Nantian didn't have the face to expose it. He truly didn't want to stay in this profound frost grotto heaven for a single moment longer. I have disturbed the Frost Heavenly Emperor and Wushu Holy Ancestor this time. This Mu will take his leave here. For the banquet on the 1st of next month, please do favor us with your presence. After saying that, he took his people and turned to leave. But deep inside his heart he was shouting out, "Don't come. Please, whatever you do, don't come." At this time inside the womb, I had also successfully fused the immaculate sword heart. Regarding the things happening outside, I also gained some understanding from the conversations of the few people. I almost pierced the sky. But fortunately I had Mom to back me up. Suddenly the system's voice came to my ear. New task issued. Task 1. Attend the celebration banquet for the absolute spirit sword body. Reward: Thunder Martial Veins. Task 2. Create a new extreme realm of the bone-quenching realm within half a month. Reward: Golden-winged Great Pang Innate Runes. 2 tasks at once. And it even wants me to attend the banquet. Even separated by the womb. He also knew that Dad and Mom didn't plan on going to the Mu family. Never mind, let's look at the next task first. Create a new extreme realm for the bone-quenching realm. I pondered this sentence for quite a while before I realized what it meant. Just having broken the bone-quenching extreme realm, a single shake of my arm yields a huge force of 108,000 caddies. Throughout history only an extremely small number of people have had such an achievement. And now it actually wants me to create a new extreme realm. Isn't this making me perform an unprecedented feat? The rewards are also extremely rich. The first reward is the Thunder Martial Veins. If I have the Thunder Martial Veins, then the spiritual energy in my body will be transformed from thunder. When the time comes looking at the entire meridian clearing realm, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to find a few people who can compare with me. I secretly made up my mind. No matter how much effort I put in, I must obtain the Thunder Martial Veins. Immediately following, I looked at the second task's reward. The golden-winged Great Peng Bird's Innate Runes. Looking at the innate talent, the first 4 words I thought of were Extreme Speed of the World. The Great Peng spreads its wings drooping like the sky, soaring straight up into the 9 clouds. This is yet another rarely seen good item. I opened my mouth and laughed happily. After birth with this thing, wouldn't I run wild and fly? Cultivate. As for the matter of attending the banquet, let's wait until I complete this task first. The time given by the system is again only half a month. And the requirement for the new extreme realm is very overpowered. My strength must reach 189,600 caddies to complete the task. Right now I'm still short by over 80,000 caddies. However, with the heaven-devouring demonic art, I am still very confident.
星号 rumble 星号.
My body emitted roaring sounds. The heaven-devouring demonic art circulated. releasing devouring power to absorb Mom's heavenly emperor origin. And in the outside world, Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu also quickly sensed this commotion, and couldn't help feeling surprised. This brat. Didn't he just break the bone-quenching extreme realm? Why did he start cultivating again? Could it be that he wants to break through to the meridian-clearing realm? Jiang Wushu said. Su Qingshuang also felt helpless. She had cooperated with the little guy's cultivation for half a month, and was just preparing to spend some time recovering. She didn't expect that the little guy had just broken the bone-quenching extreme realm, then produced an immaculate sword heart, and was now starting to cultivate again. It seems I won't be able to rest recently. If our son wants to cultivate, then let him be. Su Qingshuang smiled. There was no helping it. Who told him to be her own son? Plus now that the house has been demolished. Fortunately, the profound frost grotto heaven was large enough. Su Qingshuang casually found a majestic grand hall and entered it. The biggest trouble with cultivating in the womb is that the source of all power is solely the mother's body. Therefore Su Qingshuang had to go all out to circulate her own cultivation technique and madly swallow and absorb spiritual qi. Outside the profound frost grotto heaven, the original spiritual qi vortex suddenly collapsed and dissipated, leaving a large number of cultivators who came to freeload off the fortuitous encounter feeling unsatisfied. But before the crowd could disperse, they saw appearing once again above the 9 heavens a even more terrifying spiritual qi vortex. Its massive form was like a bottomless black hole. The spiritual qi from dozens of surrounding large domains was rapidly gathering towards this side. The Frost Heavenly Emperor continues to baptize the fetus. This is absolutely a great fortuitous encounter. We absolutely cannot miss it. On the mountain rocks and among the woodlands it was entirely filled with human figures. Time passed quickly before one knew it. 9 days passed. Under my continuous efforts, my own strength was also growing steadily. 118,000 caddies. 129,000 caddies. Until 157,000 caddies. I was only more than 30,000 caddies away from the new extreme realm. Just like this time continued for 14 days. On the 15th day, early in the morning, a figure suddenly flew over from afar. Before the person arrived, their voice arrived first. As soon as I came back, I heard Qingtian tell me that my grandson started cultivating in the womb, and even broke the bone-quenching extreme realm in one fell swoop. Wushu, is this true? This figure landed, revealing the appearance of a man around 50 years old. This person was exactly Jiang Wushu's father, Zhang Taihang. In other words, my grandfather. What Qingtian said is naturally not false. Moreover, that brat is not merely just cultivating in the womb. Jiang Wushu stood up from the courtyard and said with a chuckle. He took everything from the recent days, all the various miraculous things I had displayed, and told his father completely. Hearing it made Zhang Taihang gasp in astonishment repeatedly. Ha ha ha. I said it long ago. How could the grandson of Zhang Taihang have a mediocre physique? After a long time Zhang Taihang heartily laughed out loud again. He was incomparably excited in his heart. Not only cultivating in the womb, possessing a companion divine bone, having a derived cultivation technique, and even awakening the immaculate sword heart. Today he further broke the bone-quenching extreme realm in one fell swoop. At this very moment he wished he could announce it to the whole world. Jiang Wushu on the side looked at him, smiling without saying a word with a mysterious expression. He gestured for Zhang Taihang to sit down, poured him a cup of tea, poured a cup for himself as well, and began to drink leisurely. While drinking he talked about my recent cultivation achievements. Between the father and son, one was repeatedly stunned, and the other was extremely calm. And it was exactly at this time. In the room on the other side, a wave of unparalleled formidable aura suddenly erupted. Majestic spiritual qi entered the room. Immediately after, a chilling power burst forth. Boom! An incomparably terrifying rumbling sound suddenly rang out in the firmament. They saw above the 9 heavens. Large swaths of laws shattered and order collapsed. And infinite Tao rhythms continuously derived and transformed, changing unpredictably. Outside the grand hall of the profound frost grotto heaven, Jiang Wushu and Zhang Taihang sat there like 2 wooden stakes. The fetus unleashed divine power all over his body. A large amount of laws in the void were fiercely snapped. These laws were the invisible shackles imposed by the great Tao upon all living beings. At this time another large swath was snapped by me. This is a new bone-quenching extreme realm. The brat actually reached this step. Jiang Wushu, sitting by the stone table, had long lost his previous calmness. He was both astounded and exhilarated. The father and son sat there just like this. A very, very long time passed, until all the phenomena dissipated. At this moment, waves of mysteriously inexplicable energy swirled around my body. I raised my small hand and gave a light wave. The surrounding space immediately emitted a series of rumbles. I felt infinite divine power inside my body. I carefully experienced it for a bit. With a single shake of one arm, a massive force of 189,600 catties. This is the formidable aspect of the new extreme realm. This kind of feeling truly makes one intoxicated. At this time, the purple aura in my body had increased 100-fold again. Wait until I cultivate for another period of time. The innate purple chi could increase by another few hundred times before birth without a problem. I thought in my heart. Subsequently, I let out a long sigh of relief in my heart. Hurrying and rushing, I finally completed the task on the last day. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Rewards have been issued. Please check them yourself. When the system's voice sounded by my ear, I couldn't help but reveal a happy smile. Just as I was preparing to claim the reward, suddenly my ears twitched. The sound of talking outside the grand hall attracted my attention. Grandpa is here? I know. Grandpa left the profound frost grotto heaven about 2 months ago, saying he was going deep into the heavy wilderness to catch an incomparably powerful spiritual beast to be a mount for this grandson of his. Could it be that my mount is settled? My eyes lit up and I was somewhat curious. I wonder what kind of fierce beast Grandpa caught and brought back. However, at this time, the old man didn't know what good thing he had encountered. He was laughing heartily and was extremely smug. Soon Mom also stopped devouring spiritual chi and walked out of the room. The calmest person was her. After all, every single bit of my progress was under her clear perception. King Shuang. For this little guy, it really has been hard on you. Outside the grand hall, Jiang Taihang saw Su Qingshuang. Finally, gradually calmed his emotions, welcomed her and said with concern, cooperating continuously without rest or sleep for a month was indeed a huge consumption. One could clearly see that her face was somewhat haggard at this time. Su Qingshuang bowed to Jiang Taihang, saying it was nothing. Oh right. He suddenly slapped his head, remembering something. They saw Jiang Taihang flip his wrist, and a brocade pouch appeared in his palm. Come. Let me show you what good thing I brought back for my grandson. Jiang Taihang opened the brocade pouch. Instantly, a flash of black light burst out. Immediately after, a sharp bird's cry was heard. A bird only half the height of a person flew out from inside the brocade pouch. They saw this bird was entirely pitch black. Its feathers were tough, emitting a metallic luster. That pair of eyes was extremely sharp, flashing with divine light. Father, you actually caught a heaven-devouring sparrow cub? You even managed to find this kind of immemorial relic species? Jiang Wushu suddenly let out a weird cry. In the immemorial era, the heaven-devouring sparrow could be said to be famous in all directions, terrifying countless people just by hearing its name. Even just an underage heaven-devouring sparrow, with one open of its beak, could swallow a large city with a population of tens of millions entirely. While a truly adult heaven-devouring sparrow possessed the ability to devour the heavens and slaughter the earth. Therefore, the heaven-devouring sparrow was also known as the immemorial demonic fowl. Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu were also very satisfied. Such an immemorial relic species was absolutely precious. The mount Grandpa gifted seems to look very good, but compared to my reward this time, it seems like nothing. But on second thought, being able to ride a demonic fowl to go up to heaven and down to earth, just thinking about that scene is very majestic. Flying by myself and flying while riding a fierce fowl. The awesomeness factor is naturally different. Just at this time, a cold snort suddenly came from the distant sky. Jiang Taihang, you went deep into the heavy wilderness just to catch such a thing to fool people? Outside the grand hall, a similarly dignified man in his 50s revealed his figure. Who else could it be but Su Qingshuang's father? Jiang Wushu's father-in-law. My maternal grandfather. Su Yunfeng. The moment he appeared, Jiang Wushu's heart suddenly tightened, as if it had been fiercely squeezed by someone. He looked at his own father again, and thought to himself that things had gone bad. Even Su Qingshuang revealed a trace of a helpless, bitter smile. These two old men had been old rivals who fought for hundreds of years. The two had known each other since they were young, but neither submitted to the other. As long as they met, they would definitely start fighting. But destiny is just this miraculous. After fighting for so many years. To think they eventually became in-laws. Because of this, Su Yunfeng almost annihilated the entire Jiang family back then. Joking aside, his precious daughter was abducted by a little brat from the Jiang family. How could this be tolerated? However, under Su Qingshuang's insistence, old man Su ultimately could only pinch his nose and accept it. He originally thought that since they became in-laws, there was no longer any need to continue fighting with Jiang Taihang. It was better to shake hands and make peace. Who would have thought? Just as the young couple finished their wedding here, Jiang Taihang started showing off to him again. Things like your precious daughter is now a member of my Jiang family and so on. This completely infuriated Su Yunfeng. As a result, the two fought even more fiercely. Now as long as they meet they definitely bicker. As long as they don't fight physically it is considered light. No one's persuasion works. Thinking of these things, Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu felt a terrible headache. Here the moment Su Yunfeng arrived. He glanced at Jiang Taihang, and then glanced at the heaven-devouring sparrow bound by him. He sneered, revealing an expression of disdain. I thought you found some kind of divine beast for my grandson. Turns out it's just this little sparrow. Su Yunfeng said with a face full of contempt. Jiang Wushu and Su Qingshuang on the side felt extremely speechless. The dignified descendant of an immemorial demonic fowl was actually just a little sparrow in this old man's mouth. I in the womb was also extremely amused hearing these words. Heaven-devouring sparrow, are you polite? And Jiang Taihang outside the grand hall exploded all at once. He fiercely raised his eyebrows. His beard trembled a few times. He said loudly, Su Yunfeng, are you picking a fight? Come. Let me see what kind of divine beast you found for my grandson as a mount. He looked sideways at Su Yunfeng, and leisurely crossed his arms. The provocative meaning was extremely obvious. You said what I brought is a little sparrow. Fine. I won't argue with you for now. Show the divine beast you found first, then we'll talk. Hee. The mount I found for my grandson is naturally not something you can compare with. Just watch carefully. They saw Su Yunfeng wave his hand. Suddenly lightning flickered and covered the void, accompanied by a surge of bright white light. A huge fowl manifested. Its entire size was probably 10 times larger than the heaven-devouring sparrow. This fowl was snow-white all over. Its feathers were as crystal clear as white marble. Its body was even permeated with electric arcs. That was the power of thunder and lightning, set off by the lightning glow. It made this fowl look incredibly majestic. Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose. Another immemorial relic species cub. Jiang Wushu and Su Qingshuang couldn't help but exclaim softly. These two old men. Did they overturn the nests of the immemorial relic species? One must know that in the immemorial era, the Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose was equally renowned. Legend has it that when the Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose lays eggs, it must choose a place where thunder ravages. Only there can the cubs successfully hatch. Precisely because of this, the Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose can control the might of thunder and lightning. When an adult Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose flaps its wings, lightning thicker than mountains will strike out through the air, capable of splitting an immemorial divine mountain into fine powder. This is also a terrifying divine fowl. But relatively speaking, the Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose is much milder than the heaven-devouring sparrow. Its temperament is not that violent. The mount Grandpa prepared seems not bad either. In the womb I couldn't help but ponder. The heaven-devouring sparrow and the Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose. Exactly one black and one white. One fierce and one mild. I've decided. In the future when fighting and brawling, I will take the heaven-devouring sparrow out, destroying whoever I meet. When viewing flowers and admiring the moon with young ladies, I can ride the Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose. It's both romantic and majestic. Simply perfect. Here my little calculations were clicking away. How about it? This Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose isn't bad, right? To be a mount for my grandson. There is simply nothing more suitable. Outside, Su Yunfeng held his head high with a proud face. This Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose cub. He had spent a great deal of effort to get his hands on it. But Jiang Taihang couldn't help but burst into laughter with a pfft. Ha ha ha. Su Yunfeng, are you trying to make me die of laughter? I thought it was some powerful divine beast. Turns out it's just a wild goose. Just this? As soon as these words came out, Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu both wished they could spit out a mouthful of old blood. One says the heaven-devouring sparrow is a little sparrow. The other calls the Azure Cloud Thunder Wild Goose a wild goose. These are all immemorial relic species. Don't they have any face? Are immemorial divine fowl and immemorial fierce fowl both so unbearable? There really is no one quite like these two old men. Just as they were feeling speechless, Jiang Taihang and Su Yunfeng started arguing again. As they argued, the two directly glared at each other. Looking at that posture, they were red in the face and thick in the neck. Jiang Wushu stood aside in a frantic rush, wanting to say something, but the two old men didn't have the slightest intention of paying attention to him, continuing to argue, lively exchanging word for word. It was completely impossible to get a word in. Okay? In the womb, listening to these conversations, I really couldn't help but want to laugh out loud. As long as these two elders of my family meet, it's truly a scene of flying chickens and jumping dogs. But I listen with great relish. At least it can pass the boring life in the womb. I suddenly sighed in my heart, as an onlooker eating melons. At this very moment, how wonderful it would be if I had a small pushcart in my hands. Melon seeds, drinks mineral water. Cigarettes, beer, ate treasures, porridge. Once Jiang Taihang and Su Yunfeng started arguing, it was simply endless. The two rolled up their sleeves. The aura all over their bodies surged and crashed together with a boom. It looked like they were about to start fighting. Jiang Wushu braced himself and stepped forward to persuade them. But the two old men glared at him at the same time, as fierce as could be. Of these two, one is his biological father. The other is his father-in-law. He couldn't afford to offend either of them. In this family, his status is the lowest. Fathers, please don't argue anymore. Whether it's the heaven-devouring sparrow, or the azure cloud thunder wild goose. Why not wait until Yuxian is born and let him decide? At this time, Su Qingshuang spoke up to persuade them. As soon as the little guy was mentioned, both old men withdrew their imposing auras and stopped bickering. My grandson's name is Jiang Yuxian? This name is really not bad. It perfectly matches my grandson's bearing and status. Jiang Taihang and Su Yunfeng instantly beamed with joy, both quite satisfied with the name Jiang Yuxian. Inside the womb, I couldn't be bothered with what was happening in the outside world either. I'd better study the reward I received this time first. System. Fuse the golden-winged Great Pang innate runes. I directly summoned the system. As the command was issued, in an instant waves of golden runes rose up, flickering erratically. Formidable energy entered my body, combining with my bloodline and turning into a part of myself. These runes derived and transformed, carrying peerlessly tyrannical power. And under the influence of this power, various miraculous phenomena couldn't help but appear in my mind. As if I was placed in the immemorial era. Dragons roaring and tigers howling. 10,000 races towering aloft, each displaying divine might. A golden-winged great peng bird spread its wings horizontally. Its golden wings gave a light flap, soaring straight up, covering 10,000 miles in an instant. The previous moment it was right before one's eyes. The next moment it was already beyond the straightest clouds of the 9 heavens. At this very moment I only felt inside my body, as if an immemorial divine fowl was reviving. The golden-winged great peng bird innate runes fused together, making me feel like I had also become a great peng bird. Its speed crowned the great thousand world. In the formless void a high-pitched bird's cry rang out, piercing through numerous spatial barriers, making people's minds shake. The 4 people outside the grand hall all heard this bird's cry deep within their souls. Jiang Taihang and Su Yunfeng also didn't care to continue gesturing. They were greatly shocked in their hearts. 4 pairs of eyes simultaneously looked towards Su Qingshuang's lower abdomen, just as they developed hearts full of doubts. Another cry spread out. This time, the bound heaven-devouring sparrow and azure cloud thunder wild goose, the 2 immemorial relic species, both prostrated on the ground, simultaneously trembling ceaselessly. They worshipped towards the direction where Su Qingshuang was, as if there was a supreme divine fowl there, from the deepest part of their bloodlines, bringing them a terrifying suppression. You brat! What is this playing at again? Jiang Wushu opened his mouth, not knowing what to say anymore. And Su Qingshuang's face was even more spectacular. She felt it the most genuinely. The runes inside the fetus were boiling and constantly evolving. Behind that tiny body, it seemed as if 2 invisible golden wings had grown out. And all these abnormalities were all brought about by those runes. The innate runes of the golden-winged great peng bird. Su Qingshuang said in horror. Hearing her say this, Jiang Wushu couldn't sit still and hurriedly said, the golden-winged great peng bird. Didn't it already go extinct as early as the ancient era? How could there be such a divine object? The golden-winged great peng bird only existed in legends. That was an absolutely strong existence that roamed the immemorial and ancient eras unhindered. One of the most terrifying divine fowl. It was just a pity. The golden-winged great peng bird had been extinct since the ancient era. But legends about it had always had records passed down. It can't be wrong. This is absolutely the golden-winged great peng bird's runes without a doubt. The heaven-devouring sparrow and the azure cloud thunder wild goose have all been suppressed. Jiang Wuxiu looked at the void before his eyes, where streaks of golden runes had actually also appeared, and the immemorial relic species brought back by the two old men. At this time were all kneeling and prostrating on the ground. Especially the wild and untamable heaven-devouring sparrow was just as incredibly obedient, under the coercion of the golden-winged great peng bird. What heaven-devouring sparrow? What azure cloud thunder wild goose? All became as docile as quails. The four people outside the grand hall were momentarily rendered speechless. How could this little thing possess its innate runes? At this moment both old men were stunned. My series of performances over the past month or so was indeed quite bizarre. Right at this time, the golden runes at Su Qingxuang's lower abdomen slowly retracted and faded away. The sky-filling coercion also dissipated along with it. The prostrate heaven-devouring sparrow and azure cloud thunder wild goose felt as if relieved of a heavy burden, and stood up wobbling. The two immemorial relic species also restored their previous valiant and extraordinary appearance. It was just that. They would glance towards Su Qingxuang's direction from time to time. Their eyes were full of fear deep down. With the wisdom of these two divine fowl, they naturally knew that inside that woman's belly existed a terrifying person capable of subjecting them to suppression from the depths of their bloodlines. At this time the two old men felt these mounts were also unworthy of my status. They didn't care about fighting either, and instead gathered together and started muttering. Old Jiang, how do you think I should handle this azure cloud thunder wild goose? How about we just stew it like you said? I think that works. Stew a rich broth for Qingxuang to drink. And by the way, let my grandson nourish his body in the womb. What about your heaven-devouring sparrow? I really haven't thought it through for the moment. How about we stew it together? Sure. The bird is so large. One pot won't be able to stew it all. No problem. I'll make a trip to the Jade Cauldron Sacred Land and borrow their sect-guarding sacred artifact. This is good, this is good. That cauldron of the Jade Cauldron Sacred Land is more than enough to stew these two birds. Then it's settled. You go borrow the cauldron. I'll sharpen the knife. We'll slaughter them as soon as you get back. Listening to their conversation, Jiang Wuxiu and Su Qingxuang truly felt their heads splitting in two. In the womb, I heard grandpa and maternal grandfather's conversation, and couldn't help but stare blankly with my two eyes. I was dumbfounded hearing it. I really like these two mounts. Although I possess the golden-winged great peng bird's innate talent, but after all that requires flying by myself and consumes my own power. Moreover, traveling while riding an immemorial relic species, swaggering through the streets would absolutely be more majestic. Now there was no way to stop the two of them, I could only be speechless. I thought disjointedly in the womb. While outside the grand hall, the heaven-devouring sparrow and the azure cloud thunder wild goose lay on the ground shivering. They could both understand human speech. However, fortunately Su Qingxuang stopped Jiang Taihang and Su Yunfeng in time. Hearing that there was no more noise outside, I started to feel somewhat bored. Now I've already created the new bone-quenching extreme realm. What should I do next? Should I continue quenching bones to go a step further than the new extreme realm? Or break through to the meridian-clearing realm in one breath? With the progress of my cultivation and the strengthening of my power, this feeling of grasping infinite power in my hands made me incomparably intoxicated. Since I have nothing to do in the womb, then I'll just keep cultivating. I pondered for a while. Ultimately, I decided to continue cultivating in the bone-quenching realm. Perhaps there's a chance to touch an even higher extreme realm, who knows? But facts proved that this thought was too greedy. A few days passed. Mom had also been constantly cooperating, continuously mobilizing the heavenly emperor origin for me to cultivate. But the results achieved were minuscule. My strength only grew to a little over 200,000 catties. Compared to the previous speed, it was much slower. Even after another 10 days or so passed, did it reach 210,000 catties in one swoop. This kind of result made me somewhat helpless. It seems the new extreme realm has truly reached the ceiling. In fact, after Mom learned of my situation, she also couldn't help but speak up. Little guy, you shouldn't be too greedy. On the path of cultivation, constantly polishing one's foundation, making it increasingly robust and powerful, is of course a good thing. But cultivation has never been solely for the sake of polishing the foundation. I don't know if you can understand my meaning. Listening to Mom's words, I fell into deep thought, and finally came to understand. Polishing the bone-quenching realm is so that later on, when in the other major realms, I will have a stable and solid foundation. But if I stay in the bone-quenching realm all the time without breaking through, then it will be completely meaningless. This thing is fine as long as it's enough to use. And I, in the bone-quenching realm, have already tyrannized eternity, being the #1 person from ancient times until now. How is this merely enough to use? Even my mom Su Qingxuang back in the day was far inferior. I'm afraid that for countless years to come, it will also be difficult for anyone to surpass it. It seems there's truly no need to continue going on. I smiled bitterly slightly. After figuring it out, my whole person felt much more relaxed. Finally, I no longer have to cultivate anxiously and in a rush. It just so happens that Mom has also been quite tired these past month or more. I'll let her rest for a bit. I'll break through to the meridian clearing realm in a few days. I murmured and stopped. After Dad Jiang Wushu learned of this, he also let out a sigh of relief. He looked at his own wife's somewhat haggard face, feeling an unknown amount of heartache. Schwanger, let me give you a massage. To relax a bit, Jiang Wushu reverted to his simp nature once again. One moment pounding his wife's shoulders, the next massaging her legs. He even found an already sentient blood ginseng, and caught an 8 treasures chicken raised for many years within the grotto heaven and slaughtered it. He stewed a large pot of blood ginseng chicken soup to nourish Su Qingxuang's body. After a good deal of bustling about, Su Qingxuang also entered a brief state of secluded cultivation. Before the fetus is born, all sources of power come only from the mother's body. Over this period of time, her origin consumption was enormous. Origin power is fundamentally the most essential energy, and the foundation of a cultivator. Many people, when facing powerful and invincible enemies, will choose to burn their origin, to let their strength skyrocket instantly, thereby fighting for a glimmer of survival. But the price is also very heavy. The consequence of burning origin, if light, is a major drop in realm, and a drastic regression in strength, requiring several times the time and energy to cultivate bitterly to recover. If heavy, one's life force rapidly drains away, and their life will not be long. Su Qingxuang's origin loss was naturally nowhere near this degree. However, by the time I am born, I will absolutely take away a large amount of her origin. At that time, even if she is a peerless heavenly emperor, she will still enter a short period of weakness. This is the price that must be paid for nurturing life. Up until now, I have been in the womb for over 6 months. It's only over 3 months away from truly being born. Schwanger, the new house is already built. Let's move over there. A few days later, Su Qingxuang recovered to her peak state, and Jiang Wushu also had someone build a new courtyard, still on top of a high peak. The layout in the courtyard was exactly the same as before, full of warmth, having the atmosphere of a home. You brat. Be a bit more careful when you stir up trouble next time. Or just give your mother a heads up, got it? Don't demolish my house again. Jiang Wushu supported Su Qingxuang to sit down by the stone table, and said fiercely towards her lower abdomen. He knew. The little guy could probably understand his words now. Inside the womb, I curled my lips. Dad, you dare to threaten me? Aren't you afraid my mom will deal with you? As an emperor's son, if I don't stir up some trouble, does it match my status? I complained for a bit, seeing that Mom had pretty much recovered. I also started preparing to step into the meridian clearing realm. However, before I could start cultivating, on this day, a few people suddenly arrived at the profound frost grotto heaven. Hidden Sword Mountain's Jian Ling Tian, accompanied by 3 elders, comes to presumptuously visit the frost heavenly emperor. This voice rang out outside the grotto heaven, loud and clear. Every word that fell was like an immortal sword thrusting into the universe, soaring straight to the Milky Way. Terrifying sword intent shot out in all directions. The firmament and earth resounded with sword whistling simultaneously. This is the imposing might of an absolute top sword cultivator. Just a simple sentence triggered a terrifying phenomenon. Why has Sword Saint Ling Tian come? Su Qingxuang and Jiang Wushu were immediately somewhat puzzled. Jiang Wushu didn't think too much and directly waved his hand, opening the formation outside the grotto heaven. Subsequently, they saw 4 streaks of sword light flash out from the void. condensing into the appearance of 4 people. The leading man wore a white long robe, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. A slender figure, looking to be only in his 30s. He merely stood there, and his whole person was like an unsheathed divine sword. Behind him stood 3 old men. These 3 people similarly had sword-light coiling around their bodies. We pay respects to the heavenly emperor. After the 4 landed and walked into the courtyard, they bowed in unison, saluting Su Qingshuang. Su Qingshuang raised her hand, signaling them to sit down and speak. However, only Jian Ling Tian sat by the stone table. For what matter has Sword Saint Ling Tian come this time? Jiang Wushu poured him a cup of tea and asked. Jian Ling Tian didn't beat around the bush at all, and immediately stated his purpose for coming. This Jian was originally in the Heaven Brilliance domain, but learned of a heaven-shaking news from the people of the Mu family. As he spoke, his gaze couldn't help but turn to Su Qingshuang. A thick sword intent suddenly burst forth from his eyes, appearing extremely eager. I heard that the unborn emperor's son awakened the immaculate sword heart. This Jian came this time exactly to consult the Frost Heavenly Emperor, waiting until the emperor's son descends into the world in the future. Can he enter my hidden sword mountain to cultivate? Inside the womb, hearing Jian Lingtian's words, I couldn't help but be stunned. I am still several months away from being born. Wanting to recruit me into Hidden Sword Mountain so eagerly? I couldn't help but become a little smug. Look, the Immaculate Sword Heart is just this popular. Hidden Sword Mountain is the world's strongest sword Dao inheritance. The Dao lineage of the Sword Emperor. It hasn't even been a few days, and they're rushing over to take me under their tutelage. At this time, Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu also couldn't help but reveal smiles. However, at the same time, the two also had some doubts in their hearts. The Sword Saint's information is truly well informed, Jiang Wushu said with a smile. Listening to Jian Lingtian's words, he heard from the Mu family that the little guy awakened the Immaculate Sword Heart. He knew that after the Absolute Spirit Sword Body appeared in the world, Hidden Sword Mountain definitely wouldn't be able to sit still, and would inevitably rush to the Mu family at the first opportunity, wanting to take him under their tutelage. As the strongest sword Dao inheritance of the current era, they absolutely wouldn't let go of the possessor of such a formidable sword body. It's just that the matter of their own brat was actually also known by him. This was exactly what puzzled Jiang Wushu and Su Qingshuang. After all the day, Jiang Yuxian awakened the Immaculate Sword Heart. Su Qingshuang quickly made a move to suppress the anomaly. Although it caused a bit of a commotion, it was confined within the grotto heaven. Furthermore, when Mu Nantian left, his face was as ugly as could be. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have actively told Jian Lingtian about this matter. Have some face, okay? Seeming to know their doubts, Jian Lingtian didn't hide it, and explained the whole story. That day when he hurried to the Mu family with the 3 elders, Mu Nantian had already set off to rush to the profound frost grotto heaven. When he returned a few days later, that face of his was pulled as long as a Qilin horse's face, looking like he was in a very bad mood. So an elder of Hidden Sword Mountain inquired privately, and only then learned the truth. This news made everyone in Hidden Sword Mountain greatly horrified. The Immaculate Sword Heart is an existence absolutely not weaker than the Absolute Spirit Sword Body. Even when the two face each other, the Absolute Spirit Sword Body would be the party subjected to absolute suppression. Such a powerful sword Dao physique is too terrifying. At the same time, it also made the hearts of Jian Lingtian and the 4 of them grow increasingly fervent. The Absolute Spirit Sword Body and the Immaculate Sword Heart. They wanted them both. But if they could only choose one of the two, then it must inevitably be the Immaculate Sword Heart. The Sword Saint wants to recruit my son into Hidden Sword Mountain, and let him exclusively cultivate the Sword Dao? Su Qingshuang's pleasant voice rang out. She touched her lower abdomen. To be honest, she was somewhat reluctant. The sword cultivators of Hidden Sword Mountain practice the sword for their entire lives, living more bitterly and ascetically than the vast majority of cultivators. But at the same time, if discussing who has the deepest sword Dao heritage in the current era, it would be none other than Hidden Sword Mountain. Even if she is a heavenly emperor. If solely discussing sword Dao attainment, she is also far inferior to Hidden Sword Mountain. If Yuxian enters Hidden Sword Mountain, he will inevitably receive full cultivation and support. In the future, relying on the Immaculate Sword Heart, he will absolutely be able to maneuver freely and coerce the 3,000 Dao domains. This made Su Qingshuang somewhat find it hard to choose. I wonder what the Frost Heavenly Emperor and Wushu Holy Ancestor have in mind. Jian Lingtian stared straight ahead, looking at Su Qingshuang one moment, and looking at Jiang Wushu the next. The three hidden sword mountain elders behind Jian Lingtian. At this time also all had burning gazes intensely earnest. Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu didn't answer either. But I inside the womb suddenly became anxious. I'm not going. Beat me to death and I still won't go. Sensing Mom's hesitation, I immediately refused to accept it on the spot. Are you kidding me? That ghost place hidden sword mountain. I had heard Mom and the others mention it when chatting. Those people are a bunch of lunatics. Only knowing to practice the sword all day long. They are indeed very powerful. But at the same time I also know that sword cultivation is extremely dry and tedious. Many people spend their entire lives dedicating the vast majority of their time to polishing the sword Dao. As for other activities, even things like the opening of secret realms, or the emergence of supreme treasures, one rarely sees the figures of these sword cultivators. Unless something that can interest them appears. But I express that. If cultivation is not for showing off, even if one becomes an immortal or an ancestor, it is completely meaningless. Who works themselves to death? If not to earn some stinking money? I complained endlessly in my heart. As soon as I thought of the day after day, unchanging life of sword cultivators, I felt incomparably uncomfortable. Isn't it good to enjoy life properly? Moreover, my mom is a heavenly emperor. Do I need to practice the sword exhaustingly? I also have a system on me. With so many methods. How could I be limited to the immaculate sword heart? Thinking of this, I immediately raised my small fists and waved them in the void. As soon as I moved, Su Qingshuang immediately sensed it. This little thing. Why is he punching my belly again? Su Qingshuang was puzzled in her heart. But after paying attention for a short moment, she knew the little guy was expressing his dissatisfaction. This made her feel surprised. Does Yuxian mean to express that he doesn't want to go to Hidden Sword Mountain? A gentle smile appeared at the corner of Su Qingshuang's mouth. She looked at Jian Lingtian. Sword Saint Lingtian is perhaps being a bit too hasty. There's no harm in waiting a few more years for this matter. At that time let the little guy make his own decision. If he wants to go to Hidden Sword Mountain, I definitely will not stop him. Su Qingshuang said warmly. She didn't refuse directly, but left some leeway. Who knows if I will change my mind later? Only regarding Su Qingshuang's answer. Jian Lingtian and the three elders seemed to be somewhat unsatisfied. They saw Jian Lingtian suddenly lift a palm and swipe it across the void. A huge fissure appeared in the void. And exactly within that fissure, a watermelon-sized cocoon of light presented itself. The instant they saw this light cocoon, both Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu's pupils contracted violently. That cocoon of light just hovered there quietly. But with the cultivation of the two they could feel that it contained unimaginably terrifying energy. Faintly perfectly blended sword intent burst forth from it. As if inside the light cocoon, a supreme life form was being nurtured. And it was related to the sword Dao. This is the limitless sword fetus. Jiang Wushu couldn't help but exclaim. He and Su Qingshuang exchanged a glance, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. The so-called sword fetus is a sword Dao method that only top sword cultivators can possess. When general cultivators reach profound realms, they will nurture their divine soul, transform their primordial spirit, let their divine sense connect with heaven and earth, to communicate with thousands of laws and great Dao principles. But sword cultivators do not need to do so. Their divine souls will retract to the extreme, using vast sword intent to continuously polish and nurture them. After countless years, only then can they eventually transform into a sword fetus. At this time the sword cultivator themselves is the world's strongest sword. And the sword fetus is the strongest spirit. Once any sword cultivator nurtures a sword fetus, their strength skyrockets by far more than 100-fold. Sword Saint Lingtian truly is being very generous, even willing to bring out the limitless sword fetus. Jiang Wushu said, losing his voice. He and Su Qingshuang never expected that Hidden Sword Mountain would actually bring out such a supreme treasure. Among the 3,000 Dao domains of the great wilderness world, many people knew that Hidden Sword Mountain had profound heritage. Outside their sect gate, there was a heaven-reaching giant sword thrust into the earth, radiating divine light day and night with sword intent soaring into the 9 heavens. In the forbidden grounds of Hidden Sword Mountain, there was also a sword graveyard that buried countless famous swords. Within the sword graveyard there was a divine peak named the Sword Monument. Every sword Dao Supreme of Hidden Sword Mountain would leave a brand of their sword intent on the Sword Monument, regarding it as an everlasting inheritance for 10,000 generations. for future disciples to observe and study. In addition to this, there were also rumors in the world that at Hidden Sword Mountain, before the founding patriarch, the limitless sword emperor disappeared. He left behind a limitless sword fetus. However, this was just a rumor, and very few people knew if it was true or false. But Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu were very clear that this was not a rumor. The limitless sword fetus truly existed. At this moment, that light cocoon in the void fissure was exactly that sword fetus. Within this sword fetus condensed the sword emperor's lifelong sword Dao comprehensions and divine abilities. It is the strongest heritage of Hidden Sword Mountain today. But for countless years, never had any single person emerged who was qualified to fuse this sword fetus. Looking across Hidden Sword Mountain's billions of years of inheritance, with countless disciples and generations of heaven prides and heroes coming forth, those who reached the peak with the sword Dao to achieve the body of a sword saint. Yet none of these people were qualified to inherit the limitless sword fetus. None of them could gain the recognition of the sword fetus, because even if they fused it into their bodies, it would also be difficult to achieve the position of sword emperor. In other words, only those with the aptitude to become an emperor are qualified to accept this sword emperor's strongest legacy, this limitless sword fetus. My Hidden Sword Mountain originally prepared to give to the absolute spirit sword body. The two of you must also be clear. If this sword fetus can be fused with the absolute spirit sword body, it will be flawless. Even when the time comes, the immaculate sword heart might not necessarily be its match. Jian Lingtian said. Jiang Wushu nodded. He naturally understood this point. The absolute spirit sword body does not cultivate spiritual energy, does not nurture the divine soul, and only cultivates the sword Dao. Since they do not cultivate the divine soul, they cannot nurture a sword fetus. But even so, the absolute spirit sword body can also eventually achieve the supreme heights, using the body as a sword, even opening the heavenly gate with a single sword going against the heavens to strike down immortals. But if they had this limitless sword fetus, they could completely make up for their only shortcoming, the sword spirit, using the body as the sword and the sword fetus as the spirit. Such an absolute spirit sword body would be unparalleled in the world. Reaching the peak to become a sword emperor would be just around the corner. By then, even if the immaculate sword heart was in front of it, I'm afraid it wouldn't gain any advantage either. This Jian hadn't yet had time to deliver the sword fetus at the Mu family, before hearing that the emperor's son awakened the immaculate sword heart. Frost Heavenly Emperor. Wushu Holy Ancestor. This Jian has come this time carrying 10,000 parts sincerity. As long as you agree, after the emperor's son is born, the limitless sword fetus will belong to him. With the potential of the immaculate sword heart, he will absolutely be able to gain the recognition of the sword fetus. Jian Lingtian said. His gaze flashed with full expectations. The emperor's son was already extraordinary to begin with. Aside from the immaculate sword heart, he also has a special physique. Furthermore, according to what the Mu family said, he was even cultivating in the womb, and even broke through the bone-quenching extreme realm. All of this indicated that his talent was outstanding. If they could recruit him into Hidden Sword Mountain and fuse the limitless sword fetus, it would inevitably be like adding wings to a tiger. Of course, the reason for choosing the emperor's son also had another extremely important factor. Su Qingshuang. The only existence to prove the heavenly emperor Dao fruit in millions of years. The #1 powerhouse in the current world. If they became the master sect of the emperor's son and forged a deep friendship with the heavenly emperor, it would bring numerous benefits to Hidden Sword Mountain. It was absolutely superior to the Mu family. In the womb. This Hidden Sword Mountain truly thinks highly of me, huh? What to do? I am so conflicted right now. When I learned about the limitless sword fetus, my heart immediately became fervent. Such a supreme treasure is simply too rare. This is a heaven-shaking temptation. But turning around and thinking of the dry and tedious cultivation times of a sword cultivator, I couldn't help but shiver all over. For a moment I was caught in a dilemma. My little face wrinkled up into a ball. This is truly hard to choose. So conflicted, right? But in that split second an idea suddenly sparked in my mind. How about I let Mom agree first, and wait until I am born, and then go to Hidden Sword Mountain to be a nominal disciple? Wouldn't that be fine? Anyway, first coax the limitless sword fetus into my hands. When the time comes I'll mess around however I want. Anyway, my mom is a heavenly emperor. Even if I don't stay at Hidden Sword Mountain, that bunch of people won't be able to do anything to me. I truly am too witty. I couldn't help but feel incredibly excited, feeling myself completely wise, martial, and exceedingly sagacious. Hidden Sword Mountain is strong. But no matter how strong, can they be stronger than my mom? Even if I really swindled the limitless sword fetus into my hands, I'm afraid they could only pinch their noses and accept it. I'm not intending to be ungrateful either. I can be a disciple of Hidden Sword Mountain. If you guys encounter any trouble, I definitely won't stand by and do nothing. If there are suitable benefits, I absolutely won't forget you either. I just want to pursue freedom. Live the life I want to live. And just don't want to practice the sword all day. It doesn't conflict. It doesn't conflict at all. At this moment I was extremely smug in my heart. My wishful thinking was rattling loudly. But in the very next instant, a voice suddenly rang out in my mind. New task issued. Task goal: reject the limitless sword fetus. Task reward: Great Desolation, Heaven Imprisoning Finger. This sudden task instantly shocked me to the core. I was just hesitating over whether or not to want the limitless sword fetus. But this dog system. So infuriating. Such a powerful divine treasure, and you actually tell me to reject it. However, the reward given by the system is also endlessly terrifying. The Great Desolation, Heaven Imprisoning Finger. Cultivated to the realm of major completion. Striking out with one finger. Shatter the universe. Reverse the heavens. The great Tao rotates, laws collapse and extinguish. Even the most powerful enemies can be crushed with a single finger. This is a fiercely extreme divine ability. Now I am even more conflicted. I want both of these supreme treasures. But it's impossible to exploit loopholes in the system. It's too hard to choose. In fact, I am not the only one feeling conflicted at this moment. Outside, Su Qingshuang was equally undecided, glancing at Jian Lingtian sitting opposite her. She even felt somewhat tempted to directly accept it on the little guy's behalf. But after quite a while passed, she didn't feel any movement from the little guy. Could it be this little thing actually looks down on the limitless sword embryo? That's right. Even if Yu Xian doesn't have the limitless sword embryo, he is still bound to reach the supreme peak. Just that miraculous cultivation method he is practicing alone is enough to let him rise from nothing and dominate the current era. Su Qingshuang thought this way. She was deeply impressed by that unknown cultivation method. She could faintly feel that the method had yet to display its true terrifying aspects. In comparison, even the limitless sword embryo probably couldn't match it. The sword saint's move here is truly tempting. Su Qingshuang smiled helplessly and spoke. At this moment the limitless sword embryo floated quietly, radiating brilliant light. She glanced at it lightly, feeling a bit of regret. But there was nothing she could do. Who asked the little guy to disdain it? Su Qingshuang withdrew her gaze and continued speaking. Just as I said before, it is still better to wait until the little guy is born, and let him make the decision himself. She still didn't speak in absolutes. Just in case after the little guy is born, he becomes willing to accept the limitless sword embryo again? Hearing Su Qingshuang's words, disappointment couldn't help but well up in Jian Lingtian's eyes. Even the three elders behind him almost lost their tempers. Frost, Heavenly Empress. Wushu, Holy Ancestor. Such a supreme treasure like the limitless sword embryo still needs consideration? Such an important matter. You want to let the Imperial Son decide for himself after he is born? Are you guys serious? Right then an elder of Hidden Sword Mountain was heard speaking out, not hiding it from the Frost, Heavenly Empress. We specifically came here today just to get a definite answer. If there is no affirmative answer, this limitless sword embryo will definitely be given to the absolute spirit sword body. After all, for sword cultivators, every single day is spent honing sword intent, and no time can be delayed. The meaning behind the words was very simple. If you cannot confirm, then we can only give the sword embryo to the absolute spirit sword body. Otherwise, waiting a few years after the Imperial Son is born only to say he doesn't want it would delay the Mu family kids' cultivation for a very long time. This caused both Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu to fall into hesitation. Especially Jiang Wushu, who suddenly couldn't sit still. Su Qingshuang sent him a sound transmission, which finally calmed him down. And watching them reveal hesitation from the side, Jian Lingtian felt even more regretful. The elder who just spoke wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by his wave of the hand. Jian Lingtian shook his head helplessly. Such a supreme treasure of his Hidden Sword Mountain. The sword embryo left behind by the Sword Emperor. To think there was someone who could refuse it. It truly is hard to accept. Frost, Heavenly Empress. Wushu, Holy Ancestor. Please consider it again, you two. This Jian can wait a few more days. 3 days from now is the day the Mu family hosts a banquet for the absolute spirit sword body. Before the sword embryo is given away on that day, if the Frost Heavenly Empress makes a decision, you can send a message to this Jian at any time. Jian Ling Tian said with a light sigh. After speaking, he cupped his hands to the two to take his leave. Then, without lingering at all, he took the 3 elders, turned into sword light, escaped into the void and disappeared. Seeing them leave with faces full of disappointment, Jiang Wuxiu suddenly sighed with emotion. That is the limitless sword embryo. Ah. Shuang are we really going to refuse it? Su Qingshuang broke into a smile. It's better to respect the little guy's wishes. He doesn't seem to want the limitless sword embryo. Jiang Wuxiu suddenly felt helpless. This brat. You aren't even born yet, what the hell do you know? A supreme treasure left by the Sword Emperor. And you just outright refused it. You're spoiled rotten by your mother. Su Qingshuang didn't say anything more. While inside Su Qingshuang's belly, I completely ignored my old man's dissatisfaction. Stunned for a moment. Then suddenly remembered an important matter. Jian Lingtian's words before leaving reminded me. Instantly, my 2 little hands started waving non-stop, wanting to tell Mom that I had something to say. This situation also startled Su Qingshuang. No way. You little thing. Could you have regretted it so quickly? Do you want that limitless sword embryo? Su Qingshuang asked, somewhat puzzled. But I gave another fierce series of kicks and punches, obviously denying it. You don't want the limitless sword embryo? Then what do you want? To continue cultivating? After asking this, the little guy once again used his actions to deny it. This left Su Qingshuang completely baffled. She had no idea what he wanted to do. You want to join Hidden Sword Mountain? Jiang Wuxiu asked probingly. I punched my mom's belly to deny it. I want to go attend the banquet. Take me to the Mu family to eat at the feast. And I want to sit at the kids' table. Inside the womb, I screamed silently, using both hands and feet waving non-stop. What I am thinking about right now is the uncompleted system mission. That day 2 missions arrived simultaneously. One of them was for him to go to the everlasting Mu family to attend the banquet. But my old man and mom had absolutely no intention of going. But if we don't go, wouldn't my thunder martial vein go up in smoke? How could I miss out on such a powerful martial vein? Therefore, over these past few days, I have constantly been pondering how to tell Mom my thoughts. But after thinking back and forth, I couldn't do anything. And just now, before Jian Lingtian left, he happened to mention the celebration banquet for the absolute spirit sword body. This instantly jolted me awake. Good heavens, I finally caught an opportunity to remind Mom. But alas, the old man and Mom still couldn't guess his thoughts. Outside, Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wuxiu looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't guess it, but they still had to guess right? Who asked this little thing to be their own son? Do you miss Grandpa? Miss your maternal grandpa? Miss your uncle and aunt? Then you must miss the heaven-devouring sparrow, and the azure cloud thunder wild goose? You want to go out and play? The 2 of them teamed up and threw out a flurry of wild guesses. But in the end they were all denied by the little guy. This made them sweat profusely out of anxiety, spinning around in circles in the courtyard. What on earth does this brat want to do? No, none of those. I want to go to the Mu family. Only by going to the Mu family can I get the thunder martial vein. Inside the womb, my face was covered in tears. Communicating with Mom like this was truly too exhausting. The 2 huddled together guessing for ages, but completely failed to grasp my meaning. Left with no choice, I could only continue punching the belly. Even though it was Jiang Wuxiu and Su Qingshuang, a holy ancestor and a heavenly empress, were also tormented quite severely at this moment. A fetus's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. You brat, you're tormenting people this much before even being born. Believe it or not, I'll beat you up after you're born. Jiang Wuxiu threatened fiercely. But the very next second, catching a glimpse of his wife's fierce glare, he instantly burst into an awkward laugh. Just joking, just joking. Shuang, don't use your hands. Jiang Wuxiu unconsciously took a few steps back. He was truly afraid his wife would hit him with heavy punches again. Su Qingshuang glared at him, and then pondered for a moment. The little guy definitely has something to say. And he probably wouldn't shoot arrows without a target. Wuxiu, think about it. What did the few of us just say? Having calmed down, Su Qingshuang began to analyze. Jiang Wuxiu thought it made sense upon hearing it, and helped recall from the side. Sure enough, when he repeated the middle sentence of what Jian Lingtian said before leaving, I in the womb actually showed an incredibly excited appearance. 3 days from now is the day the Mu family hosts a banquet for the absolute spirit sword body. You don't happen to want to go to the Mu family to attend the banquet, do you? Jiang Wuxiu widened his eyes and said. Now I became even more excited. After working hard for so long. The old man and mom finally guessed right. You really want to go attend the banquet? No way. You aren't even born yet. You can't eat the food and you can't drink the wine. What's the point of going? Jiang Wuxiu rubbed the back of his head, feeling a buzzing in his brain. The brat's thoughts are truly impossible to fathom. It's someone else's absolute spirit sword body banquet. Why are you joining in the fun? I don't get it. Besides looking at Mu Nanshan's expression when he left that day, he had no sincere intention of wanting us to go, okay? With you a flawless sword heart going. Where would the absolute spirit sword body put its face? Are you going specifically to steal someone's thunder? Wait. You don't actually want to specifically run to the Mu family and then accept Hidden Sword Mountain to steal the absolute spirit sword body's opportunity, do you? A flash of inspiration hit Jiang Wuxiu as he thought of this possibility. Is this brat that wicked? You reject what others deliver to your door, insisting on running to the Mu family, and right in front of the absolute spirit sword body's face, snatch away the limitless sword embryo that is almost in his hands? Wouldn't that be riding on the Mu family's neck and slapping their faces? The nature of this is far too malicious. Since Yu Xian wants to go, then we might as well make a trip. A gentle smile appeared on the corners of Su Qingxuang's mouth. It's not a big deal anyway. Just attending a banquet, that's all. If the little guy wants to go, how could we not satisfy him? Even if he really wants to snatch the limitless sword embryo to his face, so what? As for how the Mu family views it, it doesn't matter at all. If they have any feelings of dissatisfaction in front of a heavenly empress, they'll have to honestly hold it in their stomachs. The Mu family is not too far away from the profound frost cave heaven. With Su Qingxuang's cultivation, it wouldn't take long to arrive. And there are still 3 days before the banquet begins. I in the womb also began to ponder what I should do in these remaining days. Since there's enough time anyway, I might as well directly break through to the Meridian Clearing Realm. Just right, going to the banquet in a few days to obtain the Thunder Martial Vein will be the perfect time to fuse it. Having made the decision, I immediately began another round of cultivation. Mom had also rested for a few days, and her origin source had long since recovered. Cultivating a bit more at this time wouldn't cause her much trouble. Do as soon as thought of. In that bizarre and motley space, I gently closed my eyes. The heaven-devouring demonic art circulated. The spiritual energy in my body turned into a mountain flash flood, surging and roaring through my limbs and bones. The incomparably dense innate purple chi tumbled endlessly within my meridians. These powers circulated rapidly in my body at the same time, attempting to, within that tiny body, open up one magnificent pathway after another. The brat is finally going to break through to the Meridian Clearing Realm. Outside, Su Qingxuang's beautiful brows lifted slightly. She didn't delay either, and just quietly sat down on the stone stool. The vigorous power within her body circulated, lending the little guy a helping hand. Is he entering the Meridian Clearing Realm? This brat. I wonder what huge commotion he will cause this time. Jiang Wuxiu muttered to himself. During this recent period, the brat has been cultivating in the womb, and awakened a companion divine bone, as well as an unknown cultivation method. Golden-winged great Panganate runes, flawless sword heart, and he also broke the bone-tempering extreme realm in one fell swoop, and even established a new extreme realm. This series of operations makes one unable to resist calling him a monstrous genius. Today, he is finally going to break through to the Meridian Clearing Realm. Logically speaking, with the brat being so extraordinary, possessing so many miraculous things, after stepping into the Meridian Clearing Realm, he is also bound to be able to awaken a special martial vein. I really want to see just what kind of special martial vein can be worthy of my son. Jiang Wuxiu murmured, his heart growing increasingly expectant, expecting the little guy to bring him a massive surprise once again. Thinking of this, Jiang Wuxiu simply sat down to the side as well, quietly feeling the changes in the fetus inside Su Qingxuang's abdomen. The so-called Meridian Clearing Realm is about tempering spiritual energy 1,000 times, reaching an extremely pure degree, and then using that pure spiritual energy to impact the body's meridians, making them increasingly majestic, as vast and magnificent as a great river like the Yangtze. The Meridian Clearing Realm is similarly divided into 9 levels. In each level, not only do the martial veins become more numerous and robust, at the same time the spiritual energy in the body undergoes continuous transformation. As for me, cultivating with the heaven-devouring demonic art, and consuming Mom's heavenly empress origin source power, the generated spiritual energy has already reached an outrageously pure degree. Therefore I simply need to straightforwardly open the martial veins. At this moment in that space that seemed like born from chaos, my tiny body was also sitting cross-legged, posed in a cultivation stance, my whole body blooming with clear radiant light. As the boundless spiritual energy advanced, it was like heavenly lightning wreaking havoc, emitting a massive rumbling sound, launching a frenzied assault on all the meridians in the body. In just a moment the terrifying power smashed through like splitting bamboo, instantly clearing a checkpoint. Following immediately, an extremely thick martial vein rapidly took shape, entering the meridian-clearing realm this fast? Even faster than I imagined. Outside, Jiang Wuxiu felt all this and sighed in admiration. He knew breaking through to the meridian-clearing realm would absolutely be as easy as flipping a hand for me. But doing it this fast was something he hadn't expected. At this speed, the brat will probably take 3 days at most to cultivate to the 9th level of the meridian-clearing realm in one breath. Jiang Wuxiu thought to himself. Sure enough, just as he thought. As time continuously passed, the sun set and the moon rose again. Inside the fetus's body, more martial veins were continuously opened up. These martial veins centered around the dantian, extended and grew throughout the body, reaching everywhere, releasing a bright and intense radiance. At the same time the aura on my body was also continuously skyrocketing. Meridian Clearing Realm Level 1. Meridian Clearing Realm Level 2. Meridian Clearing Realm Level 5. Meridian Clearing Realm Level 9. Meridian Clearing Realm Level 9. This is way too fast. Early in the morning on the 3rd day, the sky had just lit up. Amidst a huge commotion, Jiang Wuxiu abruptly stood up from the stool. He couldn't help but praise endlessly. The brat's cultivation speed is simply unbelievable. To actually cultivate to the 9th level of the meridian clearing realm in one breath, using only 2 days. This is too terrifying. Everything seemed to fall into place naturally. And at this time Jiang Wuxiu could clearly sense. The power in the fetus's body was like a vast ocean, rising with massive waves striking the sky. Rumble rumble. Boundless mighty force burst forth, setting off incomparably terrifying tremors. I sat quietly cross-legged, covered by endless divine radiance, emitting waves of an inexplicably ferocious aura. After a long time, these commotions finally slowly subsided. My cultivation was finally firmly stabilized at the 9th level of the meridian clearing realm. At this moment Su Qingshuang opened her eyes, a hint of a smile appearing at the corners of her mouth. The little guy has finally broken through to the meridian clearing realm, and cultivated all the way to the 9th level in one breath. Not only that, she could clearly feel, within that tiny body of the fetus, it was as if a peerless divine demon was hidden. Terrifying beyond compare. Not bad. Cultivating to this stage in just 2 days. Su Qingshuang was very satisfied with this result. But as she turned her head, she saw her husband's slightly stunned expression beside her. At this moment Jiang Wuxiu's eyes were full of bewilderment, mixed with a bit of disappointment. Wuxiu, what's wrong? Su Qingshuang asked aloud. Jiang Wuxiu opened his mouth, pointed one hand at his wife's bulging abdomen. It just ended like this? He said, finding it somewhat hard to accept. Su Qingshuang was puzzled. This isn't right. When the brat was in the bone-tempering realm, he created so many huge commotions one after another. Now that he has cultivated to the meridian-clearing realm, no matter what he should awaken a special martial vein, right? Is there really none? Jiang Wuxiu asked in confusion. His tone even carried a hint of anxiety. He leaned close to Su Qingshuang's lower abdomen, seemingly wanting to study the brat more closely. Hearing him say this, Su Qingshuang also fell into a brief silence. Indeed. Right now spiritual energy surged inside my body. The martial veins stretched out like mountain ridges, vast and magnificent. But he truly had not awakened a special martial vein. The spiritual energy within the fetus's body remained the most common type of power. Without the enhancement of a special martial vein, it brought no substantial transformation at all. Such a result made both of them somewhat unable to accept. Both you and I possess special martial veins. It shouldn't be that this brat doesn't have one. Could it be that he exerted too much effort in the bone-tempering realm, and overdrawn all his potential? Jiang Wuxiu widened his eyes and said. Hearing his words, Su Qingshuang also smiled helplessly. If he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. No matter how hard it is to accept, it is still the truth. They couldn't change anything. Forget it. At worst, we'll just let him stay in the meridian clearing realm until he is born. After he is born, I will go out on a trip and find some divine treasures to refine a special martial vein for him. Besides, the little guy is already outstanding enough. Even without a special martial vein, I believe he will still be able to stand at the absolute peak and reign over all living beings in the future. Su Qingshuang thought for a while and said this. Martial veins are innate. Ordinary methods cannot change them at all. With her methods, refining a martial vein wasn't a difficult task. But to compare it with a truly top-tier special martial vein, there would probably still be a slight gap. However, for me, it should be more than enough. Perhaps my expectations were too high. It can only be like this then. Jiang Wushu nodded. The higher the expectation, the greater the disappointment. Perhaps he shouldn't blame the brat. He could only blame himself for overthinking. Jiang Wushu consoled himself like this. Inside the womb. After I heard these words, I couldn't help but shrug my shoulders. Isn't it just a special martial vein? Old man, mom, just you wait. Once we arrive at the Mu family, I'll give you another heaven-shaking surprise. I grinned and said in my heart. 1,000 mountains just waking. Morning clouds emerging from the peaks. In the central lands of the Tianlan domain, a majestic giant city spanned tens of thousands of miles. This giant city was named Fufeng City. Its master was precisely one of the most supreme forces today. The everlasting Mu family, centered around Fufeng City. The cultivators of the entire Tianlan domain all revered it as a holy land. Early in the morning, the enormous Fufeng City was bustling with extraordinary liveliness. Countless cultivators stepped onto the streets, looking up at the sky from time to time, or gathering towards the direction where the Mu family was located. They knew today was a big day. Not days ago, the absolute spirit sword body was born. Surging sword light struck up to the 9 heavens, and down to the 9 netherworlds. Over a dozen large domains were alarmed. The everlasting Mu family was endlessly thrilled because of it. Such a grand event that brought glory to the family gate naturally required hosting a banquet for guests from all directions to celebrate it properly. And today was the day the Mu family banquet was being held. One could imagine that it wouldn't be long before a large number of heaven-reaching figures would rush over from all over to congratulate the Mu family. Even quite a few holy ancestor-level entities would also descend with their true bodies. Thus many cultivators constantly stopped to observe, hoping to revere the peerless elegance of a certain holy ancestor expert. When the sun had just risen a bit, wave after wave of figures could be seen appearing in the distant sky, flying into the city from all directions. Everyone carried an overwhelmingly vast aura that stirred the void. Scarlet Flame Sect. I saw the people from the Scarlet Flame Sect. Those flying over on swords over there. Could they be the people from Spirit Sword Villa? There's also Dark Moon Valley. The crowd in the city quickly recognized the people from one faction after another. These factions were all first-rate great sects within the Tianlan domain, dominating their respective regions with illustrious reputations. The everlasting Mu family hosting a banquet. They naturally had to come early to offer their congratulations. Under the gazes of everyone, all those figures descended toward the Mu family's direction. Li Changhe of the Jade Flame sect has come to congratulate the everlasting Mu family on the birth of the absolute spirit sword body. Zhao Zhishan of the Divine Aura sect offers congratulations for the everlasting Mu family's absolute spirit sword body. Yun Qinyan of the Fallen Phoenix Palace congratulates the everlasting Mu family on producing another true dragon. One expert after another spoke loudly and clearly, congratulating in quick succession. In front of the gates of the Mu family's grand and imposing manor, a middle-aged man welcomed them with a face full of smiles. Looking at the endless stream of guests before him, he felt extremely pleased in his heart. The appearance of the absolute spirit sword body made the entire Mu family share in the glory. Everyone, please enter the manor and take your seats. Please forgive any lack of proper reception, the middle-aged man said with a smile. Subsequently, under the guidance of a group of attendants, the people from these factions were all led into the manor. But the place where they sat was the side hall of the everlasting Mu family. Inside the Mu family manor, there was also a main hall, magnificent and expansive. In front of the main hall, thick pillars made of divine wood sparkled brightly under the morning sun, like crystal-clear precious jade. Only those holy ancestor-level experts with supreme cultivation or from desolate ancient holy lands. Immortal great sects and everlasting families had the qualifications to sit in here. Many gazes looked over from afar from the side hall, all unable to resist carrying a look of envy. Who wouldn't want to rank among the strongest and receive the highest treatment? And just as these people's thoughts were fluttering, a massive sound transmitted from the distant sky. The enormous Fufeng city was shaking. In just a single moment, all the cultivators in the city were alarmed. Rumble rumble, accompanied by the huge roaring sound. A magnificent and majestic carriage appeared high in the sky in the distance. This carriage was pulled by 12 robust Qilin horses. The body of each Qilin horse was covered in glittering golden scales, set against the snow-white manes on their heads. A single horn pointed to the sky, displaying a sharp edge like a divine weapon. The incomparably massive carriage was draped with divine gold and precious jade. Silk ribbons, all woven from the fur of unknown spirit beasts, diffused a divine charm. The 12 Qilin horses trampled their iron hooves pulling the carriage, rolling over the void as they rumbled forward. The divine gold and precious jade collided and jingled as the carriage advanced, sounding like the voice of the great Tao. Those are snow-scaled unicorns. It's the carriage of the Jinghong Emperor. Emperor Jinghong is the emperor of the Jinghong divine dynasty. He actually came in person? The crowd in the city instantly boiled over. The Jinghong divine dynasty was also a colossal entity among the 3,000 Tao domains, ruling over billions of miles of mountains and rivers with countless subjects. Emperor Jinghong himself had long reached the holy ancestor realm in cultivation. That was a peerless emperor who had been on the throne for over 100,000 years, currently at his absolute peak. What no one expected was, for this Mu family banquet, Emperor Jinghong actually arrived in person. One could imagine how this terrifying emperor at the peak of power valued the absolute spirit sword body so much. Unfortunately, the surroundings of the grand carriage were covered by curtains blocking the view, making it impossible to see Emperor Jinghong's honored visage and the others inside the carriage. Buzz buzz buzz. Just as everyone was in shock, the void suddenly emitted a terrifying tremor, stirring up vast ripples. Terrifying ripples spread out sweeping across the 9 heavens. The void collapsed one after another, shattering into nothingness. Amidst the chaos, several figures emerged, old and young alike. The leader was a middle-aged man, with broad shoulders and a thick waist. His figure was tall and fierce, holding a blood-red giant axe in his hand, just like a divine demon. This was a man in his 40s, with rugged facial features, muscles bulging all over his body, his eyes looking around like an eagle or a wolf, divinely martial and extraordinary. An invisibly formidable pressure emanated from his body, oppressing the void into trembling and buzzing. So many pairs of eyes looked at that figure, unconsciously trembling in their hearts. Overlord Sect Master Su Quangren. He also came. This holy ancestor who ascended not many years ago also arrived in person. What a terrifying, imposing aura. Madman holy ancestor's pressure is too powerful. The crowd clamored. Many people revealed intense looks of worship in the depths of their eyes. Su Quangren's advancement to the holy ancestor position had only been a few hundred years, but in many places across the great desolate world, his legends were circulated. The Overlord sect where he resided was originally just a very ordinary faction. Yet Su Quangren, relying solely on his own strength, spent thousands of years to claim the position of holy ancestor, thereby taking the entire Overlord sect soaring upward with him. If nothing unexpected happens, the Overlord sect has hope of ranking as a holy land in the future. Swoosh! Amidst the waves of discussion, the void rippled consecutively. Immediately after figure broke through the air and arrived. Stepping out from spatial passages, an old man appeared leading several young men and women, causing waves of exclamations from the crowd. Fu Wanqing, head of the Supreme Mystery Sect. Wanqing, holy ancestor. He also brought his disciples here. Suddenly, boundless purple chi rippled on the horizon. A young-looking man, but with a full head of fluttering white hair, arrived treading the waves. This man wore a light-colored long gown, with wide sleeves fluttering, like a person among immortals. Similarly, there were several young figures following behind him. Feixian, holy ancestor. Chu Fixian. Even the rarely seen asking immortal sect has come? The people in the city all widened their eyes. Wherever their gazes reached, they couldn't help but be won over by that figure surging with immortal aura. Just at this moment, The sound of massed war drums transmitted from beyond the sky. The war drums were mighty, rolling with momentum, carrying monstrous killing intent. The entire heaven and earth were filled with this infinitely terrifying aura. Amidst a scene of grim slaughter, hundreds of heavily armored soldiers holding sharp weapons walked out from the void. Every single one walked on the air. The auras on their bodies intertwined together, and were barely weaker than a true holy ancestor expert. Under the guard of this group of soldiers, a massive black fierce tiger 10 jong tall gradually revealed its figure. A man wearing a tall crown sat high on the tiger's back, looking no older than 30, but carrying a majestic bearing. Dark Heaven Tiger. Nylon Guards. It's the younger brother of the Fulong Divine Dynasty's emperor, the War King Di Wushuang. Is the War King attending the banquet on behalf of Emperor Fulong? Those are the legendary Nylon Guards. Their combined battle formation can contend against a holy ancestor. There's also the Dark Heaven Tiger. It is said it has the hope of stepping into the ranks of holy beasts. Fufeng City exploded into a frenzy. The arrival of these experts, one after another, made them excited. But this was far from over. As time passed, the sun gradually rose higher. By noon, more and more terrifying figures arrived here. These figures were normally very hard to see even once. Yet today, they all suddenly came swarming in. Zhang Wanli of the Lotus Mountain sect comes to congratulate the Mu family on the birth of the absolute spirit sword body. Huanchu Holy Land congratulates the Mu family on producing another peerless genius. A true dragon is born to the Mu family. My everlasting Ji family naturally comes to ask for a cup of wine to drink. Voice after voice spread out in the void, all delivering words of congratulation to the Mu family. And these people who spoke, which one of them wasn't an overlord dominating a region? Someone in the city even tallied it up. At least 10 holy ancestors had arrived at the Mu family. Such a grand occasion was truly rare. As these people arrived one after another, a burst of hearty laughter issued from the depths of the Mu family. Ha ha ha, everyone honoring us with your presence truly brings immense glory to my Mu family. At the same time the laughter rang out. The figure of Mu Nantian was seen sweeping up into the high sky, personally coming out to receive them. Behind Mu Nantian, a 7 or 8-year-old little boy followed him, stepping forward together. When the group of heaven-reaching figures saw this little boy, their gazes all couldn't help but shrink abruptly. They clearly saw that still tender body standing tall and straight, like an unsheathed sharp sword pointing straight at the firmament. Endless sword intent wrapped around him, setting him off like a peerless sword god. In the surrounding nothingness, clusters of heaven and earth laws, and great Tao true meanings, were all cut into a tangled mess by the terrifying sword intent. This little boy's face was stern and cold. At such a young age it was as if he already possessed a peerless demeanor that looked down upon everything. Between his brows was written full of arrogance, without the slightest intention of restraining it. The moment he appeared he attracted everyone's sight. Without a doubt, this young boy was precisely the one born not long ago, the possessor of the absolute spirit sword body, Mu Nanshan's grandson, Mu Qingchen. He was only 7 years old this year, but the pressure radiating from his body right now was terrifying to the extreme. That unmatched sword intent surged horizontally and vertically, slashing across and hacking down. The grand true meanings of the surroundings were massacred into a total mess. This kind of sword intent could even directly slash into a person's divine soul. In the crowd that came to congratulate, those young men and women whose cultivation was still shallow felt endless stinging pain in their divine souls. Everyone couldn't help but step back in unison, hiding behind their own family's experts. Only then did they recover. But pair after pair of eyes looking at Mu Qingchen, all unconsciously carried more or less a sense of awe and reverence. And seeing their appearances, Mu Qingchen's still thin chest puffed out even more proudly. His gaze swept past the crowd, the corners of his mouth curving up into a faint arc, seemingly showing disdain. The absolute spirit sword body is indeed terrifying. It just recently awakened, and already possesses such imposing might. High in the sky, the War King from the Fulong Divine Dynasty spoke. Under his seat, the massive Dark Heaven Tiger's body crouched slightly, emitting low growls from its throat, its sharp tiger eyes staring fixedly at Mu Qingchen, looking as if it was posturing to pounce. Even this incomparably powerful fierce beast felt a certain level of threat at this moment. The everlasting Mu family truly produces generations of geniuses. Now that the absolute spirit sword body has emerged, In the future he will surely transform into a dragon and soar the heavens, dominating the universe. Zhang Wanli of the Lotus Mountain sect sighed in admiration and said, with the strength of the absolute spirit sword body, in the future of these 3,000 Dao domains, there will definitely be a place for him. Even his merit participating in creation, seeing through to the heavenly emperor realm has some slight possibility. The absolute spirit sword body is rare throughout the ages. Rarely is there anyone who can stand shoulder to shoulder with it. In the future the everlasting Mu family under his leadership is bound to be even more glorious. Truly makes this Ji envious. The people of the everlasting Ji family were also praising endlessly. He was indeed envious. A physique in this world that can be compared to the absolute spirit sword body is hard to see in 10,000 ages, and is completely unique in the current era. Never has a second one been heard of. Ha 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 ha, you overpraise. Everyone is overpraising. Please come inside. Mu Nantian laughed loudly, waved his hand, gesturing for everyone to enter the main hall. The Mu family also had many experts appear, accompanying at the side to entertain guests. After the group of people were all seated, the smile on Mu Nanshan's face still couldn't be contained. The words of praise from the group of experts still echoing in his ears. He took a deep look at Mu Qingchen sitting beside him. Toward this grandson, he felt increasingly satisfied. The banquet was about to officially begin. And at this time, Jian Lingtian of Hidden Sword Mountain also appeared with 4 elders. They had already arrived at the Mu family a few days ago, and had agreed upon a major matter with Mu Nantian. Mu Qingchen would be sent to Hidden Sword Mountain, and would obtain the identity of Sword Son, receiving all-out cultivation and nurturing. Learning this news, everyone present couldn't help but be shaken again. Hidden Sword Mountain was already renowned for its attacking and killing power, its radiant sword Dao slashing the heavens and killing the earth. With Mu Qingchen joining Hidden Sword Mountain, it could be called adding wings to a tiger. By that time not only would the Mu family gain a peerless sword venerable, Hidden Sword Mountain could also benefit greatly from it. Jian Lingtian's arrival made it so that before this banquet even started, it had already reached a climax. The 5 people of Hidden Sword Mountain took their seats, with the identity of the absolute spirit sword body's master sect, accompanying by Mu Nanshan's side. They could also be considered the hosts of today's banquet. This Mu is here to thank everyone for gracing us with your presence. We have prepared some meager wine, please do not disdain it. Later I will let Qingchen toast a cup to you all. He is still young and cannot handle much alcohol. Everyone please take it easy on him. Ha ha ha. Mu Nantian sat in the primary seat at the head and laughed loudly. Hearing his words, everyone gave another round of flattery. Just as family head Ji said, for the Mu family to produce such a true dragon truly makes us incredibly envious. Fostered by the current era's strongest sword Dao inheritance, Hidden Sword Mountain, the absolute spirit sword body riding the wind and rising up is just around the corner. Looking across these 3,000 Dao domains in the future, how many people can withstand a fight with the absolute spirit sword body? At that time in the vast great desolate world, who wouldn't know of the sword body? Who wouldn't be aware of the Mu family? Hidden Sword Mountain in the future might not necessarily fail to become a dual emperor inheritance. Hearing these words, Jian Lingtian remained calm and collected. But Mu Nantian felt an immense sense of satisfaction in his heart. He stroked his beard, smiling so wide he couldn't close his mouth. To the side, Mu Qingchen's expression also became increasingly cold and arrogant, raising his eyes to look at the many younger generation in the hall. All were supreme geniuses from major Holy Land's aristocratic families and divine dynasties. But at this moment there wasn't one among these people who wasn't looking up at him. And in the near future, they would even more so tremble prostrate and bow in submission beneath his divine might. Many people in the hall were still continuously praising, still remembering the day the absolute spirit sword body was born, with phenomena appearing in succession, and the whole world in an uproar. That phenomenon, even compared to when the child in the frost heavenly empress's womb awakened a special physique, was several times more magnificent. It can be foreseen. In the future the absolute spirit sword body will definitely not be half a point weaker than the imperial sun. Suddenly an elder of the Overlord sect spoke such a statement. The meaning in his words was that the absolute spirit sword body was not half a point weaker than the imperial sun. But everyone present could understand. This was leaving some leeway out of fear of the frost heavenly empress's majesty. If one were to really calculate, I'm afraid even that unborn imperial sun would also find it hard to be compared on equal terms with the absolute spirit sword body. Suppressing the imperial sun, this is an extremely high evaluation. However, just as these words fell, the smile on Mu Nanshan's face suddenly stiffened for a moment. He glanced at that elder of the Overlord sect, and his heart suddenly surged with endless displeasure. He had personally made a trip to the profound frost cave heaven not long ago, and had witnessed with his own eyes the miraculousness of the imperial sun, cultivating inside the womb, breaking the bone-tempering extreme realm, and even awakening a flawless sword heart. Especially the flawless sword heart, which could transform intent into swords, and even manipulate the sword intent of other sword cultivators. In other words, any sword cultivator in front of him would probably not even be able to display half their strength. The absolute spirit sword body of his Mu family was strong, but in front of the flawless sword heart, it would likely be thoroughly suppressed. It was just that on that day the Frost Heavenly Empress made a timely move, and instantly suppressed the phenomenon of the flawless sword heart. Thus very few people knew about this matter. But for Mu Nantian, this matter was like a stone lodged in his throat, making him extremely uncomfortable. My Mu family finally managed to produce a peerless sword body with great difficulty. And now look. The Frost Heavenly Empress's side directly arranged a nemesis. Are you letting people live or not? Even Jian Lingtian and the others from Hidden Sword Mountain, after learning of this matter in private, made a special detour from the Mu family and rushed to the profound frost cave heaven, wanting to take the flawless sword heart into their sect as well. One could imagine, if his grandson Qingchen were to cultivate together with the flawless sword heart, what a massive blow that would be, being naturally countered by someone from birth, with hardly any method to break the situation, is a merciless devastation to a cultivator's Dao heart. But fortunately, Jian Lingtian quickly returned to the Mu family, and only said that the Frost Heavenly Empress had rejected his proposal. This made Mu Nantian let out a long sigh of relief. The Frost Heavenly Empress actually refused. This made him extremely glad. Mu Nantian knew, as long as the flawless sword heart did not enter Hidden Sword Mountain, it would be very hard to interfere with Mu Qingchen's rise. Even if there was someone in the world who could counter him, it wouldn't hinder his achievement of the current era's absolute peak. Inside the hall, the crowd observed that Mu Nanshan's expression suddenly turned somewhat gloomy, looking displeased in his heart. This left them baffled. Wasn't a part of the reason the Mu family hosted the banquet just to hear everyone come and flatter them? How come when talking about the absolute spirit sword body, suppressing the imperial sun, you became unhappy instead? Of everyone present, only Jian Lingtian and the four elders knew what Mu Nantian was thinking. However, these 5 people all remained completely silent. Men, serve the wine, Mu Nantian suddenly ordered. He naturally wouldn't take the initiative to tell these people just how that unborn child of the Frost Heavenly Empress truly defied the heavens. No matter. As long as he doesn't hinder his grandson, it's fine. If he defies the heavens, then let him defy the heavens. In today's world, aren't all factions also existing under the coverage of the Frost Heavenly Empress's divine might? Just don't look at that family with normal eyes and it will be fine. Thinking of this, Mu Nantian adjusted his expression and expelled the stray thoughts from his mind. He put on a smile once again, and at the same time a large group of attendants filed into the hall, serving a massive amount of spirit fruits, rare delicacies, fine wine and superb brews. For a time the aroma of wine overflowed in the hall. Affected by Mu Nanshan's mood just now, the atmosphere changed slightly. The crowd no longer just flattered the absolute spirit sword body, but instead shifted the topic to Hidden Sword Mountain. Hidden Sword Mountain's limitless sword embryo has been gathering dust for many years, this time taking the absolute spirit sword body under the sect. Is there a chance to fuse it? Fu Wanqing of the Supreme Mystery Sect asked abruptly. These words instantly attracted everyone's attention. People at their level almost all knew. The founding Sword Emperor of Hidden Sword Mountain left behind a supremely strong sword embryo as the sect's highest inheritance. But for countless years no one had ever been able to gain the recognition of the limitless sword embryo. But now with the absolute spirit sword body, with the aptitude of the absolute spirit sword body, fusing with the limitless sword embryo, is definitely still qualified. Not only the people from other factions, even the grandfather and grandson pair Mu Nantian and Mu Qingchen, at this time also couldn't help but prick up their ears, wanting to hear Jian Lingtian's answer. Of course. Jian Lingtian directly gave an affirmative reply. And then he gave a light chuckle and continued speaking. The absolute spirit sword body absolutely transcends generations of hidden sword mountain disciples. This Jian feels he has a great chance to gain the recognition of the sword embryo and successfully fuse with it. However, there are no absolute certainties at this time. Everything entirely depends on destiny. After Jian Lingtian finished speaking, the hall instantly went into an uproar. Everyone ignored his second half of the sentence, because that wasn't particularly important. The most important thing was that Hidden Sword Mountain would really take out the limitless sword embryo and hand it over to the absolute spirit sword body. It was unimaginable that once successfully fused, just how terrifying the absolute spirit sword body would become. Given time, he would likely become an incomparably formidable sword emperor. Mu Nantian sitting in the main seat. At this time his heart grew extremely fiery. Radiant light shooting out from his eyes. If he truly gets the limitless sword embryo, his grandson Qinshan would definitely transform into a dragon and soar into the sky. When that time comes, who could compare to him? Even if it's that unborn imperial son, possessing the flawless sword heart, under the dual enhancement of the absolute spirit sword body and the limitless sword embryo, would absolutely not be enough to look at. Thinking of this, Mu Nantian finally opened his heart completely, surging once again with endless passion. Beside him, Mu Qingshan's eyes similarly rippled with splendid light. A pair of small hands involuntarily clenched tightly. I will definitely be able to fuse with the limitless sword embryo. The geniuses of the current era shall all be led by me, Mu Qingshan. The great era of the future will surely be decided by a single word of mine, Mu Qingshan. Endless great sects, holy lands, divine dynasties, and aristocratic families will all revere me as the supreme. He secretly made his resolution. An indescribable feeling of heroic grandeur poured out from that tender body. Mu Qingshan's gaze was burning. The looks in the eyes of the rest of the people in the hall towards him also changed. Among the crowd, only Jian Lingtian and the four elders sighed secretly. If possible, they would prefer to take both the absolute spirit sword body and the flawless sword heart into their sect together. It was just a pity that the Frost Heavenly Empress rejected them. In fact, today's banquet is not only to celebrate the absolute spirit sword body. At the same time, Hidden Sword Mountain will also hold a simple disciple acceptance ceremony here. When that time comes, the limitless sword embryo will finally be handed over to Mu Qingshan. 3 days have passed. There is still no news from the Frost Heavenly Empress. Never mind. We already have an absolute spirit sword body. Why insist on forcing the flawless sword heart? Jian Lingtian sighed lightly in his heart, feeling incredibly disappointed. But he quickly restrained his thoughts. He raised his wine cup and began to drink heartily with the crowd. In the massive main hall, cups were exchanged, and the atmosphere was extremely lively. All the guests still expressed their praises for the absolute spirit sword body from time to time, and praised the Mu family in passing. Not long after, the alcohol went to Mu Nantian's head. His face was glowing red. A smile always hung on that face. Everyone, you must drink to your heart's content today. Ha ha ha. Mu Nantian raised his cup again, tilted his head back, about to drain it in one gulp. But right at this moment, suddenly an inexplicable power poured down, permeating every inch of space. Under the influence of this power, the wine in Mu Nantian's cup seemed as if it had frozen solid. No matter what, it could not be poured into his mouth. It wasn't just him. The other people in the hall also felt the anomaly. That miraculous power filled the air. It seemed as if even the laws of the universe were frozen. This is. All the holy ancestor mighty figures present felt their hearts skip a beat at the same time. It was not just the wine in the cups. Even the spiritual energy within their bodies abruptly stopped circulating at this moment. This sudden scene caught them completely off guard. To think there was such a terrifying power in the current world, capable of simultaneously exerting absolute suppression on over a dozen holy ancestor experts. Such a situation made them incomparably horrified. However, they quickly learned the reason. They only heard a pleasant female voice ringing out from the void. Family head Mu, apologies. We are late. When this voice was first heard, it seemed far away on the horizon. But when the last word fell, it was already within the hall. Immediately following, they saw the void in the hall emit subtle fluctuations. Then the figures of a young man and woman appeared out of thin air. The man had a slender and exceptionally handsome figure. Between his brows an absolute majesty was fully displayed, radiating the demeanor of a true expert. And the woman beside him instantly attracted everyone's gaze even more. A simple white dress covered her tall and slender figure, setting off that face which looked like an exiled immortal's, to appear even more elegantly beautiful and free from vulgarity. The woman's lower abdomen was slightly bulging, obviously heavily pregnant, but an invisibly tyrannical power to the extreme permeated from her body. At a glance it was as if the great Tao of heaven and earth were all centering around her, spiraling and circling. Myriad laws. An endless order. Whenever they touched, even a bit of her body would entirely annihilate. In an instant everyone present felt their spirits abruptly tighten. Frost Heavenly Empress. An expert swallowed his saliva and spoke with difficulty. He naturally recognized the woman before him. This was the #1 person of the current era. The only existence in millions of years to have proven the Heavenly Emperor Tao fruit. The sole Heavenly Empress of the 3000 Tao domains today. Frost Heavenly Empress Su Qingxuang. The man beside her was none other than the Frost Heavenly Empress's husband, Wushu Holy Ancestor Jiang Wushu. When this result was confirmed, the Holy Ancestor expert, who had just spoken, instantly lowered his head. His gaze no longer dared to look directly at the Frost Heavenly Empress in the slightest. The supreme dignity of a Heavenly Empress could not be stared at directly. Soon the rest of the people in the hall simultaneously bowed down and cupped their hands in salute, greeting in unison, paying respects to the Frost Heavenly Empress. Greetings to the Wushu Holy Ancestor. The massive sound echoed, making the entire Fufeng city tremble. Countless people in the city all heard this sound. In an instant everyone all revealed boundless feelings of shock, causing constant heated discussions in the city. What? The Frost Heavenly Empress and Wushu Holy Ancestor actually came to the Mu family as well? How is this possible? That is the Frost Heavenly Empress. No way. Did she come to attend the Absolute Spirit Sword Bodies banquet? The Mu family's face is far too great to actually even invite the Frost Heavenly Empress over. Incredible. The Mu family is truly incredible. If there truly is a Heavenly Empress looking after them, looking across the 3000 Tao domains in the future, no one will dare to offend the everlasting Mu family in the slightest. Voices like this sounded out all over Fufeng City. Everyone ran around spreading the news, exclaiming endlessly. The Frost Heavenly Empress actually came to the Mu family to attend the celebration banquet for the Absolute Spirit Sword Body. That is a Heavenly Empress. The absolute and only strongest person in the current world. But such a legendary existence was actually invited over by the Mu family. Unbelievable. In fact, it wasn't just the ordinary cultivators in the city who couldn't believe it. Even the group of people from major factions who came to attend the Mu family's banquet were all stunned at this moment. The holy lands and great sects of the 3000 Tao domains, combined with the divine dynasties, were quite numerous. But those who could come today all had quite deep connections with the Mu family. But they had never heard that the Frost Heavenly Empress and the everlasting Mu family had any deep relationship. One must know that on the day the Absolute Spirit Sword Body awakened, the heaven-shaking phenomenon even caused some slight impacts on the profound Frost Cave heaven. At that time the Frost Heavenly Empress even shouted a question in reprimand, obviously being very dissatisfied. Afterwards Mu Nantian even personally went to their door to apologize. All the holy ancestors present knew about this matter. Presumably Mu Nantian had also casually sent out an invitation at that time. But with the Frost Heavenly Empress's status, how could she possibly come to attend? Sending a congratulatory message at best would already be giving immense face to the Mu family. Right. The Absolute Spirit Sword Body. It must be because the birth of the Absolute Spirit Sword Body caused the Frost Heavenly Empress to attach incomparable importance to it. Especially since the Mu family's divine son is about to enter Hidden Sword Mountain, having a great chance to fuse with the limitless sword embryo. Such a miraculous physique. Even the Frost Heavenly Empress values it extremely highly. Suddenly many people thought of this point. Aside from this explanation, they couldn't think of any other reason. In this instant everyone in the Mu family's main hall and side halls was shocked in their hearts. They couldn't help but sigh in admiration. A peerless sword body is just this extraordinary. To actually be so highly valued even by the Frost Heavenly Empress. Even just for such a banquet. To cause her true body to descend upon the Mu family. This is truly giving face to the Mu family. Everyone sighed with boundless emotion. A group of holy ancestor mighty figures all revealed envious expressions at this time. Everyone all looked up to the Mu family even more once again. However, there was one person present who didn't think this way. That was Mu Nantian. At this moment the flush of alcohol on his face hadn't faded. But the effects of the alcohol dissipated in an instant. His entire being became incredibly sober. The previously excited smile froze on his face. Holding the wine raised midair. Unsure whether he should drink it down or not. His whole person was completely dumbfounded. All right? Mu Nantian's gaze flickered. Looking at the pair of young men and women standing in the center of the hall. His heart was filled with extremely mixed feelings. At this very moment Mu Nantian truly felt extremely helpless. He suddenly felt somewhat regretful. I fucking went to the profound frost cave heaven to apologize. Just simply apologizing would have been fine. Why the hell did I have to send an invitation? Was my brain short-circuiting at that time? Otherwise the Frost Heavenly Empress wouldn't have actually come. Mu Nantian's expression went through a series of changes. The others in the hall also quickly noticed this point. This made everyone feel puzzled. Didn't the Frost Heavenly Empress come as a guest? But family head Mu looked as if he was somewhat unwelcoming. Doubts sprang up in everyone's hearts. It wasn't just them who felt it. Even I in the womb also noticed at this time that the atmosphere was a bit off. We finally arrived at the Mu family's banquet. Hey. That old boy Mu Nantian seems to truly not welcome us. But my mom is a heavenly empress. Do you dare chase her away? I really want to see what Mu Nantian's expression looks like right now. The fire of gossip burned fiercely in my heart. Last time Mu Nantian went to the profound frost cave heaven to show off. And got his face slapped by me on the spot. Today with mom and dad bringing me here. His appearance must be extremely splendid. I just love the look of you not being able to stand me. But yet unable to do anything about me. This feeling is simply too satisfying. Inside the hall, Su Qingshuang and Jiang Wushu also saw Mu Nantian's expression. The two had faint smiles. Especially Jiang Wushu don't mention how much he was gloating. Does family head Mu not welcome the two of us? If that's the case we will leave now and not disturb you further. He cupped his hands in a fake manner. And then supported Su Qingshuang beside him. The two turned around as if they were really going to leave. But Mu Nantian certainly didn't dare. What kind of joke is this? A heavenly empress arrived, how could he dare not to welcome her? Even if he didn't welcome her in his heart. He absolutely could not say it out loud. Looking across the entire world today. Whose guts were so fat? As to dare to shut the door in the Frost Heavenly Empress's face? Immediately Mu Nantian squeezed out an incomparably stiff smile. How could I dare? How could I dare? Welcome. Welcome. How fortunate is my Mu family to actually have the Frost Heavenly Empress and Wushu Holy Ancestor condescend to grace our humble abode. As he spoke he cupped his hands and bowed. How could he still care about drinking wine? He hurriedly even gave up the main seat. He even personally took action. Removing the wine and dishes on the table. And then replaced them with a completely new set. After a busy flurry of activity. An extra table was temporarily added in the hall. Mu Nantian and Jian Lingtian were about to take Mu Qingchen to sit down. However Mu Qingchen remained sitting in his original position. Not moving his but even a bit. Qingchen. Quickly give up the seat for the Frost Heavenly Empress and Wushu Holy Ancestor. Mu Nantian said. But Mu Qingchen didn't even look at him. The little boy's pair of eyes just stared intently at that exiled immortal-like woman. His face was expressionless and his eyes were extremely heavy and condensed. As if standing before him was not a heavenly empress, but an ordinary person. Seeing this Mu Nantian was directly scared half to death. This grandson of his was simply daring enough to wrap around the heavens. With a heavenly empress present, how could you look directly at her? Not to mention you don't have much cultivation right now. Even if you truly manage to ascend to the position of Sword Emperor in the future. The existence before you is still not someone you can easily offend. Mu Nantian didn't say anything more. He walked straight forward to take his grandson away. But Mu Qingchen dodged a bit. His gaze shifted to Su Qingshuang's lower abdomen. Frost Heavenly Empress. When will the imperial son be born? He opened his mouth and asked. Su Qingshuang smiled slightly without answering. Now Mu Nantian's body was even trembling a bit. What is the meaning of this? Are you little brat provoking the imperial son? The child is ignorant. Please Frost Heavenly Empress absolutely do not take offense. He hurriedly said. Following which he didn't delay in the slightest. He directly lifted Mu Qingchen up. The little boy's gaze still landed on Su Qingshuang's lower abdomen. Not knowing what he was thinking in his heart. But that look in his eyes was like a tenacious and extremely stubborn giant beast of the desolate antiquity. It wasn't until Mu Nantian finally brought him to sit down that he restrained himself. Was that little brat just now provoking me? That should be the absolute spirit sword body, right? Anyway, don't mess with me. Otherwise I'll beat you until you cry non-stop. Jiang Yuxian continuously sneered in his heart. He didn't care at all about Mu Qingqian's provocation. Isn't it just an absolute spirit sword body? What are you acting all tough for? Finally the banquet in the hall continued. But everything that had just happened made the atmosphere become extremely bizarre. A subtle air was flowing. The thoughts of the guests who came to the Mu family were all flickering. The situation is very clear now. The Frost Heavenly Empress and Wushu Holy Ancestor obviously didn't come to give the Mu family face and congratulate the absolute spirit sword body. Instead it looks more like they came to cause trouble. Everyone drank wine and ate food. But it was no longer as passionate as before. Almost all were mechanically pouring and drinking by themselves. Each and every one of them looked like puppets without souls. And the Frost Heavenly Empress sat at the head of the table without saying a word. In the eyes of the Wushu Holy Ancestor, there was even less anyone else. Wholeheartedly only caring about picking up food for his own wife. He even pulled out a dagger radiating cold light to peel spirit fruits. Mu Nantian was even more drinking cup after cup of wine full of depression. I in the womb couldn't see this scene. But the bizarrely silent atmosphere around. I could clearly feel it. This made me extremely overjoyed. My mom is just that tyrannical. A peerless heavenly empress is meant to suppress all insubordination. No matter how displeased you are. You have to keep it suppressed completely dead inside your heart. Everyone in the hall remained silent. But as time continuously flowed away, the 5 people from Hidden Sword Mountain, led by Jian Lingtian quickly, couldn't sit still anymore. The arrival of the Frost Heavenly Empress gave them a tremendous pleasant surprise. Could it be that the Frost Heavenly Empress and Wushu Holy Ancestor thought it through? And want to let the Imperial Son enter Hidden Sword Mountain after he is born? This is the greatest possibility. Otherwise, why would they make a special trip to the Mu family? But things didn't develop according to their imagination at all. After the Heavenly Empress couple arrived, they didn't say anything and just sat there. Are you going to agree with us or not? At least give us a straightforward answer. For a time the 5 from Hidden Sword Mountain looked at each other. They were all hesitating. Should they take the initiative to bring up this topic? In fact, you can't blame Su Qingxuang and Jiang Wushu for this. They came to the Mu family following the little guy's wishes. As for what he wanted to do by coming here, they didn't know. Whatever. We're already here anyway. Just eat. Just drink. Schwanger, try this holy snow spirit fruit. This is good stuff. It blooms once every 300 years. Bears fruit once every 300 years. It can only occasionally be seen in extremely cold lands. It's too precious. It's only because we came to the Mu family. Normally we wouldn't get to eat such spirit fruit. Jiang Wushu peeled a spirit fruit for Su Qingxuang and said with praise. After that he peeled one for himself and gnawed on it with extreme enthusiasm. The others watched until their eyelids kept twitching. Are you truly not caring about your image as a holy ancestor at all? When Jiang Wushu grabbed another bunch of grape-like spirit fruits and prepared to continue eating like a glutton, Jian Lingtian truly couldn't bear it anymore. He suddenly stood up. Immediately everyone's gaze was all attracted to him. Frost Heavenly Empress. Wushu Holy Ancestor. I wonder if you two have made a decision. To have the Imperial Son enter my Hidden Sword Mountain after he is born? He asked straightforwardly, getting straight to the point. He truly couldn't hold it in at all. However, Jian Lingtian's words made everyone present except Mu Nantian completely confused. Even Mu Qingqian at this moment also raised his eyes again to look at Su Qingxuang.